Here we go.
Cut the fix up with some Xbox babies, put the switch up. See me gearing up for war, don't get it mixed up. I come in peace, kid. I'm bringing commentary and the new releases. I put them hours in to get prepared now. We play on expert level, don't be scared now. I'ma destroy you on a Forza, I can tear down. If you ain't tuned into the channel, keep your head down. Cut the fix up with some Xbox babies, put the switch up. See me gearing up for war, don't get it mixed up. I come in peace, kid. I'm bringing commentary and the new releases. I put them hours in to get prepared now. We play on expert level, don't be scared now. I'ma destroy you on a Forza, I can tear down. If you ain't tuned into the channel, keep your head down.
Hello, Mrs. Doubtfire Style. What's up, everybody? Welcome to The Fix. You got myself here, Infinite Umbra, and I'm joined by my co-host, Daniel McG.
Oh no, I didn't know we were gonna start immediately with this energy.
You got to be on your toes.
Ugh.
Yes. And we're joined here by my brother and nice and active community member. Well, not too active on Twitter, though, are you, Peter?
No, not generally, brother.
Yeah. And Jedi Knight Peter. Jedi, what's up, brother? What have you been up to, and what have you been doing lately?
Not much, bro. I've been playing a little bit of Ghost Recon Breakpoint with you, which has been a lot of fun, man. It was on special for like $10 in Australia, $8 in America, and I think that game's worth it, every penny. Been playing a little bit of Gotham Knights, and I've really tried to stay away from Twitter with all nonsense after what happened, a couple of weeks ago now, where Xbox was literally dead and buried as the rumors were blowing up. But yeah, it's great to be on The Fix, man. Thank you for having me.
Indeed, indeed. Thank you for joining us. It is your honor to be here. I know it.
True.
Yeah, it's crazy though, because we were just talking about Breakpoint, which I have playing here in the gameplay window. For it to be that cheap of a price, $8, $8.99, I guess it was here, 10 for you guys. That's a steal for this title. I don't think it's like some super, gem of anything, but I think it's a really good game as far as after they've gotten so many issues corrected over time, because I heard that there were a ton of issues with the game before, but outside of like a very convoluted map, which is just a Ubisoft issue in general for them, outside of that, I think it's a really fun game, especially with when you kind of get your squad right with your friends and stuff like that, and you attack an objective really nicely. It all just pays off really nicely, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun when you're all working together. It's difficult when you're working with, a lot of people. It seemed to work better when it was just you and me. We could synchronize a lot better, but then Wolf joined us and Vinny joined us for a little bit, and it's a little bit more to sync up with the more people, but it's so much fun, especially if you can take down a whole base without alerting them at all.
Yeah.
Great game, man.
Beautiful thing. Although that taking down the base without alerting anybody is almost impossible with yourself and Wolf. But
well, I'm getting blamed here. I don't know about that, bro.
Wolf more so than anybody else. Wolf is. We're sitting there like, okay, all right. Take the man at 6 o'clock. I got the man at 12. And all of a sudden, the alarm going off. Like, what? I didn't even move. You just see him running around. Leroy Dingham.
It's called Wolfing It for a reason.
Yeah, definitely. But I do want to give a shout out to a few people in the chat, of course, before we move on to anything else. To our mods, at the very least. Let me see if both of them are here. For sure, Gray is always here. Gray Monad, what's up, my brother? Thank you for being here. with us tonight, and I'm going to shout out everybody else. Adidas 20, my Chicago brother. What's up? Welcome. Punty, what's up, brother? It's Timmy Jr. What's up, brother? Blind Riot, who was asking, will this show be one featuring doom and gloom for Xbox while ignoring Sony's 3-alarm house fire? Well, let's find out. Umbra's part of the reason I will still watch Risky Show, him and Blue the Hang. Well, I am honored, Blind Riot, but yeah, we'll be talking about all of that. And that's why I wanted to frame the show the way I did tonight, because it seems like it's not just a Microsoft. Oh my God! Oh, oh, y'all
You
heard?
didn't see that till now?
Yeah, that's a special. Yeah, that's a special when it goes off when we get a certain amount. The donation right there. It's the first time this happened. That threw me off a little bit. That threw me off. I'll get to that in 1 second then, since that just popped up. Kea Santi, my brother, what is up? I'm guessing you were liking the tunes. I see the musical notes. Legendary Yobi, what is up, brother? Palpatine, and of course to Legendary Yobi, who pointed out the speedy recovery to Bushido. We're here for you, bro. Godspeed, Bushido. Absolutely, we all agree there. He is doing much better, which is a beautiful thing. And Sith Lord, what's up, brother? Thank you for being here. Anybody else that's lurking, we appreciate you. And if you guys could give the show a like and share out the advert I have posted to my timeline to help get the notice out there, if you could, thank you. And to go to the super chat now, since it's there. Just a shout out to Lotus Esprit, they them, who says drops a super generous, stupendous, magnanimous. Okay, I'm sorry. Who drops a $50 super chat donation. I don't think that's the first time we've gotten that at one time like that. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, definitely. That's the first.
Yeah.
Super generous, Lotus. I think you should sing their super chat, bro.
Lotus,
It's 2 words.
Lotus, tell us what you would like to hear song, and I'll have Peter sing it specifically.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to hear that, bro. Except me,
But Lotus says, hi, everyone. Hi, Lotus. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Lotus has been going through just being super generous in general on a few shows. So thank you for coming through and giving us a listen, especially. And the donation is very much welcome and beautiful. Thank you. So, yeah, moving into you, Danny. What have you been up to, brother? And what have you been doing?
So honestly, not a ton of like actual playing video games. I've been setting up a new D&D campaign with some friends of mine, because we all recently finished Baldur's Gate 3, and we're all pretty disappointed by it, to be honest.
Wait, so not a 9 out of 10 for you, or a 10 out of 10?
No, it's like a 7. Like, there's a lot of good ideas that are just executed really bad. But yeah, so we're starting up our old D&D group, because we all sort of fell off it a while ago, because we're just like want to remember what D&D is supposed to feel like. We're just doing one of the pre-built modules, so we're doing Rime of the Frost Maiden, which is it's a Icewind Dale campaign setting, and it's like a spiritual successor to the R.A. Salvador Drizzt novels. So it should be fun. I'm DMing, so I'm really looking forward to that. And then other than that, it's just been doing a ton of work and getting caught up on Survivor. A new season of Survivor just started today.
Yeah.
I'm going to watch the new episode of that after work, or after this, and I'm pretty excited.
Nice.
42, I believe. You're the first
46.
person that I've heard. Wow. You're the first person that hasn't really thoroughly enjoyed Baldur's Gate. Is there a specific reason? I heard I spoke to you before about
Argeet didn't like it.
Yeah, that's true. When it gets to Act 3, it gets really choppy and the frame rate stops dropping. But
Yeah,
was
performance
it story related.
and the story's also not great. Like by the end of it, and it's it's not that the story's bad. It's that the way that they tell the story is bad, if that makes sense. Like, all the ideas are there and there's some really great moments, but because they want you to do so much of this side content, there's like 40-50 hours between meaningful moments, and so it just doesn't carry. Like, the pacing is really awful, and also some of the acting. Like, honestly, the guy who plays Astarion, he's just like putting his whole ass into every line, and it's just too much. Like the character is super annoying, and he's not the only one who does it. And it's just like, like I have notes here actually. I whenever I play a game that I think I might do a review on later, which I think I decided I probably won't for this one, I take notes, and just like the number of times that I've written down like, why can I not do this? This would be so simple in most games. Why is it not allowing me to do this? Like, why is there not a good option in this fight? Why is there not a just kill this guy option in this fight? Like, it's incredibly inconsistent. I think it got really overblown. People being like, "Oh, you can do whatever you want." Like, no, you absolutely cannot. There are so many options where it's like, why can't I do any of these three things the way that I would do them if I was playing actual D&D? And it's like, oh, because it's a video game, we didn't account for that. And then I go and I watch the YouTube videos of people being like, oh, it's amazing, if you do this, it accounts for that. And then I remember from my playthrough that even though I didn't do that, it acted exactly the same way. And the people who are thinking that it's reacting to a specific choice, like there's a specific YouTube video that I watched. It was a short where he killed Gortash by pushing him off the top of a tower. And when he talked to Karlak afterwards, she was like, I need to see his body up close. And so he was like, oh my God, that's so cool. It's reactive that it like knows that I pushed him from this great height, and I can't go, and I have to like go down to where the body fell before I can have this conversation. That happens if she's 5 feet away from the body. That exact same conversation happens. Like she can be within interactive distance of the body, and it's the exact same words, because it like, I don't know how, but it seems to have just like pulled the wool over everyone's eyes about like, oh my God, I can't believe how reactive it is. No, it's not. It just isn't. There's like one or two like outcomes for every particular action.
So they kind of play on the things that you do in there, and it made people kind of lose their minds a little bit because of how it seems so reactive to what you do. Is that what you're saying?
Like, so in the first act, one of the big things that was a problem for me is there, because the first act is where everyone's like, oh my God, there's so many different ways to solve everything. And the opening act's problem is there's these group of tieflings who are like half demon folk who are hiding out in an enclave of druids, and they want to go to Baldur's Gate, but they can't get there because there's a bunch of goblins in the way. And they're like, if we go by ourselves, we'll all die, which is already not true, because later you get into a fight where their leader is there, and he's like a level 10 or 12 paladin. Like he could take out that camp by himself pretty easily, considering that you have to take it out at like level 4 by yourself. So no, you are not really necessary in that fight. But on top of that, it's like, okay, so my options are go in, kill all the goblins, or go in and side with the goblins and come back and kill all the tieflings and all the druids. It's only, those are really the only two options. There's no peaceful option where you can be like, what if I convince them to not kill all the tieflings? There's no like, what if I say that I'll guide the tieflings to Baldur's Gate myself so that I can just like protect them on the road there? There's nothing like that.
It's the illusion of choice, of big choices, rather.
I don't even know if they do a particularly good job of alluding to it.
Yeah.
They just like, I genuinely don't understand how so many people are like, oh my God, you can do whatever you want. Like, you absolutely could not. Also, they add so many unnecessary statistics and like buffs and debuffs that don't exist in regular D&D, where there's already probably too many. There are 3 different versions of fear in this game. There are fear,
super fear, and super duper fear.
You're not even that far off. They're fear, frightened, and fearful, and they all do different things. And none of the 3 things are like, none of the 3 different versions are the thing that actually happens in real D&D. Which, to be fair, in a video game, the thing that happens in D&D, which is just you can't move closer to the person you're afraid of.
Yeah,
like that would be maybe difficult to I don't know, to program in. So they came up with 3 different ideas, and they were like, which one should we go for? All of them. It's like, okay, how does this one work? Am I feared or am I fearful? It's like, bro, like, what are we doing?
Go back in time. Feared. But you know, it's an interesting thing with the D&D thing. My nephew's actually, he does that with his friends. He was telling me, he's like, hey, you want to join us with this? And I'm like, what? And I've never played, the D&D thing on the table like that, a tabletop type thing, whatever, and the Dungeon Master and all of that. And I know that's what you do. And I was like, my buddy Danny, my co-host, he does that type of stuff. Maybe he might be interested, and maybe you all can link up. And he's like, he'll teach me how to do it and everything like that. I'm like,
It's a lot of fun.
I'm ready to ascend into super nerdom. I'm ready. So I'll see if I can get into this D&D thing eventually. But before we get into that, because this could go on for a while,
Yeah.
let us transition.
Let's just move on
into the news roundup. As far as myself, I will say, of course, I've been playing Breakpoint. You can see the gameplay here. The sale ended for it, by the way. If anybody is seeing this and like, $8, I'll get that. I'd buy that for $1. No, you won't. You'll be buying it for $39 or $50 or whatever it went back up to. So unfortunately, but yeah, I mean, wait for the next sale. I'm sure it'll drop back down. But yeah, let's move into the news roundup. News roundup.
Yeah. So first up, we've got honestly one of the only things on this roundup that isn't a huge bummer, which is hey, there was a Pokemon Presents. It wasn't great, to be honest with you, as a Pokemon fan. They showed a bunch of stuff that I think literally no one will care about, and then two things that maybe someone will care about. And those two things are, they showed Pokemon card game Pocket. So the Pokemon, it's literally just, you can play the card game in an app on your phone. You might be saying, Daniel, that already exists. And yeah, it does. Yeah, this is a second version of that, where it seems like the only difference is it's a slightly streamlined version of the game, and you get 2 free packs a day. So I don't know, the first one's free, I guess. I don't know, it looks flashy. It had me somewhat interested. If it's free to play, then maybe I'll try it for a day or two and then forget about it and eventually uninstall it from my phone.
They just want to take us from Pal World. Nice try.
Nice try.
We're enslaving. We're palling up with our pals. Leave us alone, Nintendo.
Yeah. And then the other thing that they showed off, I just fully hit my knee on my desk.
I heard it
was it was not comfortable. It hurt very bad. Was Pokemon Legends ZA. Pokemon Legends ZA.
That's what they call some recreational drugs. Some right?
The memes hit immediately, where it was like Pokemon Zaza, Pokemon Pizza,
right?
They hit within moments. Like before I had watched the direct or whatever, they were already like, I saw them before the direct.
Damn.
It's slated for a 2025 release date. The assumption is that it's going to be like Pokemon Legends Arceus, but different, because it's in Kalos this time. It's a prequel that takes place apparently during like the building of Lumiose City, which is just Paris, but just Pokemon Paris. Apparently it might have some kind of city building mechanic, and there's rumors that it might take place entirely within the city, which has some people bummed because they're like, oh, it might be really small, and it has me excited because I'm like, maybe it'll run at more than 10 frames a second. That'd be cool. I don't know. I'm just waiting to see gameplay of this, and I'm hoping desperately that it doesn't look like absolute dog shit like the last two. If it's a good game, then I'll enjoy it. If it's not, then I won't. But the last two weren't, so I'm not excited.
It has been so long since I've actually just sat and played a Pokemon game. Like the last, I think, I'm dead serious, I think it was like the Red and Blue series in Nintendo.
Red and Blue?
Yeah.
Not even like Fire Red Leaf Green, like the re-release? Or the remake?
I don't believe I did, but I did have some emulators, so I might have, to be honest. I don't know. But
Gotcha.
I think that was the last one I had. Well, I physically had, and I had the Nintendo for. It was like, I think the Game Boy Color or something like that at the time.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, there were definitely a lot of good ones past that. It's just like they didn't progress very fast, and then the rest of video games did, and then somehow they started regressing lately, and I don't know how the hell that happened, but here we are.
Yeah. Well, hopefully this Power World situation will kind of give them a kick in the ass that they need. We'll see.
Honestly, from your lips to God ears. Also, the only thing that gives me particular hope on this game is that normally we get a Pokemon game every year or sometimes two, and we're presumably not going to get any in 2024 because this is slated for 2025. So maybe they're taking a little bit extra time to actually make the game look and or play good.
Yeah.
Hopefully they've gotten enough feedback that like, we don't like when the game's bad, but like also their sales numbers are still huge. So
right, people don't speak with their wallet sometimes.
No,
that's the best way to affect change. But yeah, what else did we have in the news?
Rockstar devs are pissed because they have to go back to the office, and I know that sounds on paper like not a super big deal,
Yeah.
especially considering some of the other things we're going to get into here.
Yeah,
And
please
especially,
enlighten
especially,
us, because my
yeah,
thought
especially,
immediately went to that. Yeah.
yeah. So it doesn't sound like a huge deal on paper, especially because like they just had a huge like data breach, and so you might be thinking, oh, they are trying to bring everything internal so that they won't have data breaches before, even though that's not really how it happened with their data breaches. Somebody just clicked on the wrong thing in an email and whatever. Here's why it's a problem. So it is effectively a huge wave of layoffs in disguise, because in the last 4 or 5 years, they've hired like I think the number was 200 plus people in remote positions, and they told them like, you're allowed to work remote. This is fine. So they're now telling these people, okay, well, you got to come into the office. Like you have to move to where the office is, because most people are not in the same state. You have to move to where the office is and then work from there 5 days a week. And it's like, okay, well, my whole family lives in Connecticut, and you want me to be in Los Angeles, wherever Rockstar is. So it's being kind of downplayed. Yeah. So it's being kind of downplayed as like, oh no, these people have to go back to work. Bummer.
Oh,
but
no.
in reality, it's
Yeah.
like a
It's-
ton of people were hired, told one thing, and then they changed their mind, and they were like, okay, well, I'm sorry you can't make it to work, then I guess we'll have to let you go. And it's like, yeah, this is just a wave of layoffs in disguise.
So sorry. I mean,
Yeah.
we tried, right? We
If you can
tried.
get these TPS reports on my desk by tomorrow.
But it's crazy. I mean, I wonder though. Like, I'm pretty sure, Rockstar wouldn't leave themselves open to too much to like lawsuits and things like that. I'm going to guess that these people who are working remotely were kind of told of the situation before they signed up and said, "Hey, there could be a chance in the future where we transition from that to have to call you into the office." I'm pretty sure that happened.
I don't know if they
still
will have
terrible, but
specifically
yeah.
said that,
Mhm.
but most likely what it is that they just never put on paper specifically that they would never have to come to the office.
Mhm.
And then they were like, hey, now you do.
It is. I mean, it's still pretty jacked. I mean, if you're all the way,
Yeah, it's not great.
some other state somewhere else, and they're like, "Oh, you got to come here now." Yeah.
Yeah, and we're also not clear on like what the time frame on it is. So it's like,
Mhm.
how much time do these people have to move if they can move? What I'm saying is a lot of these people are going to end up leaving Rockstar. So
Yeah. 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 Oh, Lotus, you're speaking Spanish, Castellano.
what's up?
Maybe I'm just like super ignorant in the world, but what's the difference between like? I know you have different versions of Spanish, obviously, like the Spanish in Latin and Mexican, et cetera, from the language. But I didn't know there was such thing as a Castellano style of Spanish. I need to look more into that type of stuff.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Oh, Eric, and he says, Umbra, you want to join a D&D Discord I'm in? West Marches style, multiple DMs, running games to suit any schedule. Eric, and thank you for reaching out. I have never played it, brother. I would have to really be like schooled on it. And I'm the type where if I'm learning something like that, I'm going to ask an inordinate amount of questions, and I'm going to annoy you. So I'm like, Eric, how do I roll the dice? You like, what? You just roll the die. The die.
Yeah, I mean it's probably on Roll20. So if I had to guess, it's mostly just like you click the thing that says attack and then it shows you what you rolled. But
Okay.
yes,
So so it does it Diablo
the online
style. I mean,
version makes it
should I
very
say
simple.
Baldur's Gate style, where you just
A
press
little
it.
bit, but with like the actual rules that work and have worked for 100 years. But yeah, it's fine.
Gotcha.
In other news, a couple of studios have gone indie. The number one I've got here is Toys for Bob is no longer under Microsoft and Xbox.
Yeah.
They're not taking any of their IP with them, which is probably why they're still partnering with Microsoft for future games.
Yeah.
I assume at some point they'll have to work on making new IP, but honestly, this just feels like I don't know. It's like, it feels like Microsoft probably wanted to make more cuts in Toys for Bob, and they were like, can we just leave? And they said, sure. Like, if I had to guess, that's probably what it is. If they're still working on more games for Microsoft, then like on our end, it's not going to feel like anything changed, except that potentially the studio still exists. So I guess it's a good thing. I don't know.
So,
I really don't.
Pete, what are your thoughts on that situation with Toys for Bob? I got a thought on it, but I want to kind of hear you guys speak on that and give your thinking.
Yeah, so we were talking about it last night, and I just can't believe that Microsoft would just allow a studio to leave without there being some sort of partnership going into the future, some kind of money exchange or share price exchange. We were looking at now, I don't know if this is correct, it's the only information I could find, but Toys for Bob net worth was around the $350 million figure. Now I thought that was a little bit high, but like I said, it's the only figure that I could find. They lost 86 employees just a couple of weeks ago, so there definitely could be some truth to what you said, Daniel, and it was like Microsoft wanted to cut deeper, but
well, and
this is an arrangement they came to.
Another important thing to point out is that even before those layoffs, the upper leadership, the people who basically founded Toys for Bob, they left the studio in 2022 or something. So they're a very different team, and basically since those people left, they've only been making Call of Duty. So it's not really clear that Toys for Bob is still the Toys for Bob that people think of them as, because they frankly haven't had the opportunity to prove themselves since. So
unfortunately,
it's really
that's the
unclear.
case with most developers these days, brother. But I am happy for them in the sense that they're no longer going to be just a help on Call of Duty team.
Yeah.
We have been crying out for Toys for Bob to go back to that, Spyro days and well, they made Crash Bandicoot, I think, as well, days, and for them to actually have a chance. And we were hoping that, with the Microsoft buyout of Activision, they were going to get that chance. And look, I don't know what happened in the background. I would love to be a fly on the wall, but I think that maybe Activision had more of a say on what they were actually going to be working on, and they were still just going to be a subsidiary team of Call of Duty. And I wouldn't want to do that anymore.
No,
if you're in a creative industry,
especially
you want to create something, man.
Yeah.
So
I agree with that.
I would love to be a fly on the wall. I would have loved to have known what happened. I can't believe that Microsoft just allowed them to go. There must be more to it than that, but I'm sure as time goes on, we'll get more information.
It's Microsoft, so of course we'll find out eventually. But
at some point,
my thoughts went to the same as you heard me when we spoke on it. I said, I can't believe they'll just let them go for nothing, though, right? Because typically when you have a departure like this from a studio, they have to pay their way out, essentially, right? Because it's like it's like a 360 deal. You have to pay your way out.
You're gonna see that in the next, in literally the next story. That's exactly what happened.
So,
I think that.
Okay.
Well, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say before you move to that though, I do want to get my thoughts, but go ahead though. I'll let you elaborate.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, I think that the reason that there wasn't any payout for it is just because, like I said, I think that they were trying to make more cuts, and they were just like, okay, well, this is basically the same as us doing cuts, except if you leave, maybe we don't have to pay severance, and also we don't have to have the bad press of firing you.
Right.
We could just be like, oh, you guys went independent. Wow.
Makes sense, actually.
It rings as a good thing instead of a bad thing.
Yeah, that's actually a good thing. I didn't even think about it like
that. The payout for it, and it's kind of a win-win on the Xbox side of things. Maybe on both sides of things. I don't know, because the rumor is, and based on the wording of their hey, we went independent little quote that they put out, they are still working with Microsoft on their next game, probably next couple games. So they're very likely, the rumor was that they were already working on a next Spyro game. So very likely that game will still come out and still be under the same contract as it was under if they owned the studio still.
Right.
Which does have, I don't know, I'm still pretty confused as to why do it at all if you're still going to work so closely, but I don't know. It's like, hey, mom and dad, I'm moving out to the boathouse. And it's like, all right, dude.
Yeah. But that's interesting because Gray just spoke on it too. He says that they were supposed to be working on the next Spyro. I wonder if they are, if they still are. I would think they are. I would think.
It seems like it.
Yeah, I don't think they would just scrap it, and I don't think Microsoft would have paid them or whomever, Activision, I guess, in that case, to do that work and just be like, all right, never mind. I figure they'll at least close that out. And I'm of a few minds here as well, much like you guys on this situation. And first off, shout out to Yodani Huzada. He says shout out to us and Danny McG Unit. I like that. Inferno, much like you, I said the same. He's like, I wanted them to be more independent, but not this independent. Yeah, That's my thinking too, brother. And so, okay, so I'm conflicted too. I said the same thing, right? And
Yeah.
when me and Pete talked about it, and a few of us, I said on one hand, it's good that they're getting out of the Call of Duty salt mines. I think we can all agree there.
Yeah.
Too talented of a team. All of the teams actually. Raven Software even being there is just a slap to their face. They should not be relegated to just that. It's unfortunate. And all of us, when we spoke on that and the possibilities of what could be done with these I almost said salt mines, but with the Call of Duty teams and everybody under Activision, instead of just working on Call of Duty, even though we get that the revenue that brings in warrants it, it would be nice to see them actually get out and create and to make new IP or new games of a series. We all can agree.
Yeah.
So on one hand, I am happy for that reason that this is likely for them to do that. This is that action to say, hey, we've done enough of this salt mine work. I'm not trying to make a new map or whatever for you all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's a positive there. So I am for that, and I'm happy that they get to work on something that they want to work on specifically. Though, to be fair, I think even if they had their independence at Microsoft would have allowed them to be free to do the same.
Yeah, most likely.
So yeah, so I am happy with that. And then I was like, well, okay, so now what happens here? And this is another thought I had, a conflicting thought, but then I thought, maybe that aligns with Microsoft's new vision. I said, well, since they're going like this, that means that any release that they might put out might be multi-plat. And I said, well, maybe that's what Microsoft wants. Maybe they want a Conquer, or if that ever happens, or a Banjo, or a Spyro to be multi-plat. Maybe they want that now.
It's entirely possible.
Who knows now, right? So I guess it is a W all around. I was just conflicted because it felt like we just got them and you didn't get a chance to even really use them for anything, for to make anything for first party. That's what it felt like. So, but they are open to working with Microsoft, so there is that. And I do like the wrinkle you added to it, where it's just like maybe this was their way out. Like, hey, we don't have to pay you this severance or anything like that, but you can just get out and work with us on titles we need you to work on, and such and such. You get paid, of course, and this way we don't have to let anybody else go. I think that's actually pretty smart. That might just be, I think that might have some truth to it.
I think they maybe worked out an exclusivity clause or a publishing clause going into the future that they haven't disclosed yet.
It's possible. I mean, for them to speak on being open and working with Microsoft like they're going forward, maybe it is. Maybe that, I'm sure they had a talk. I don't think they just, we're out of here and didn't tell anyone anything. So I'm pretty sure that makes some sense. That makes logical sense to me that possibly did happen. Shout out to Assassin. What's up, brother? He said, I thought I'd say goodbye before I go full pony for the next few months. For the Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy Rebirth, huh? Yeah, I get it. Assassin is about to put on his Cloud Strife blonde hair wig and a fake Buster sword on his back. I get you, Assassin.
Yeah, he's been seeing those videos of Tifa, and he's trying to get in there.
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
He gonna have his lady dress up. Hey, dress up like, if you love me, you'll dress up like Tifa. I see you, Assassin, my boy. I see you. Yeah. What else did we have, Danny, in the news?
Speaking of studios going independent, Saber Interactive has bought their way out of Embracer Group. They bought their way out for, I typoed the number, but I believe it was $300 million, which God knows Embracer needs. It seems like they've come back out and they've reassured that they're still working on that KOTOR remake that'll never come out, but they want people to think that they're still working on it. Really, I'm more concerned about Space Marine 2, because that's supposed to come out this year, and if that doesn't come out, I will scream and throw a fit. So, but I think that this is obviously, getting away from Embracer is already a good enough thing by themselves. So as long as they can continue to find like publishers and stuff to support their games, I'm excited for them. Saber is a talented team, so I'm hoping that they land on their feet. This is a lot more comfortable for me for them than for them sticking with Embracer, who's already shut down so many teams. So
yeah,
it was 500 million, but
500
look,
million.
I'm looking forward to their next game. Space Marines 2 comes out later this year. I think that game's going to be amazing. My type of game.
Yeah, that right there is pretty dope for them to. First off, I didn't think Saber was Interactive was worth that much money. That is a lot, $500 million worth. But I will say this: I do like Saber Interactive. I think they make great games. And we were talking about them with Focus and how Focus has a great eye for these talented studios. I would honestly venture to say that Microsoft or Sony would be wise to try to grab whoever they have there as their talent search or whatever and bring them on board, because they are really good in that department to me. But I would say this is good for that, but for them, terrible for Embracer, who was just on this consistent
Embracer's
spiral.
Embracer's not surviving this
At all. At all.
I don't call me Nostradamus because everyone was saying it, but I put out a video like as soon as Embracer started buying stuff up where I was like, this doesn't make sense and I don't understand their plan and I don't think they have one. And here we are, I think like 2 years later, and everyone's like, wow, who'd have thought this house of cards was blown over?
Right.
So,
Yeah, Embracer, whatever they did wrong with that, I guess, handshake agreement, which was just stupid on their part to begin with. There, ever since then, it's been a downward spiral for them, and I hate to say it, but a death spiral in a sense for them. And that's why so many of us were like, "Oh man, well they can get, maybe Microsoft can swoop in and get Crystal Dynamics and Eidos and all of that." You know,
they better do it soon.
they better do something because those teams will be going soon too, and you don't want the talent to go elsewhere if anybody can pick them up. And yeah, and that's the saddest part, because you have these teams that these names we all revere, much like a BioWare, but it's not BioWare anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so you don't want that to be the case for something
we'll
like
be
this.
talking about them later too, by the way.
Yeah, perfect. But I was gonna say too.
I mean, Gearbox and Saber. Well, it's just a rumor right now for Gearbox, isn't it?
No, that's I think
it
that's
is,
confirmed,
but it's pretty.
Right?
No, it's not technically confirmed, but it's. It may as well be. They sent out. I mean, that's the next story. I'll just get into it now. Gearbox is apparently going to be sold next month. It's still technically a rumor, but Gearbox sent out an internal document to employees being like, hey, some stuff's going to change soon. Don't worry about it. Hey, there's a couple of options of how we can go. And both of them were the two that were sort of outlined there. Well, there were three, but one of them was we stay with Embracer and maybe things work out. But the other two, the real two, were we'll buy our independence or we'll be purchased by somebody else. And it seems like all the rumors are saying that they're going to be purchased by somebody else. They're not cheap. An important thing to point out is when Embracer bought them a couple years back, they were bought for $1.3 billion. The situation is extremely desperate now, which would probably bring that number down, but not a ton. So whoever's buying them is ponying up real money, unless it's themselves.
Yeah, I'm reading the article now from Insider Gaming by our brother Tom Henderson. Yeah, you're right on that. I think it says 1.2 billion for the purchase though. But other than that, it is worrisome when I see like the shadow broker that just purchased somebody. Like for instance, with Saber, it's a private investment group. We don't know who that is. They were sold for 500 million. Now with them at their valuation, I wonder who's going to grab them. Yeah, so we'll see. But again, Embracer is on a free fall. I don't know what's going to end up happening to them. I do want to address one question, I guess, which kind of hit me, my attention more than anything. What's this? Erican says, dang, Umbra, I was hoping you were in Epic Treasures Discord to send you the link easily. Oh, Erican, I'll you know what? I have to start posting our Discord. We have a Discord for the fix, everybody, if you all didn't know. And I guess I do a really poor job of actually talking about it, because I'll share it on Twitter here and there, but I don't really share it here. I'll share a link in a second, Erican, and anybody else, if you would like to join the Discord and keep it lively for us, we'd appreciate it. I just added a game clip and screenshot section at the bottom of our text channels. So anybody that joins, we would love for you to post just your game clips and screenshots. And I actually do plan on doing a gameplay of the week type clip thing toward the end of the show. And I actually want to implement more.
Just make sure you put your name on the clip, because Umbra will steal it and put it in his own gameplay, because typically his gameplay is that bad that no one wants to see it. So just be wary, guys.
by the man who keeps claiming my kills in Breakpoint. Sure. I watched that back, by the way.
I
No,
still got footage of that, bro.
No, I watched it back and I did that kill. I was like, yeah, that was me.
Nonsense.
Yeah.
Nonsense.
I was like, yeah, I knew he would try to usurp me. No, but yeah, not safe for work in chat comment. That's right, Boba. But no, definitely. I would love to have you guys game clips. You feel like it's something that could be featured on the show for the game clip of the week. Definitely share it. Or whatever, right? Whatever you find humorous or like cool, feel free to share your screenshots. I am a screenshot junkie, so Pete can tell you, anybody can tell you. If they play with me, I'll be like, oh, look at this. Hold on, stand still for a second, and I'll just start taking pictures. Like I'm a tourist in something. So trust me, there's no shame. If you got cool screenshots, something you find nice, a cool clip, I want you guys to share it in this Discord. So I'll post that in a few. Blind Riot asked, I wanted to get to that. He hit at, and it's a worthwhile question, I think, to be fair to him, because at first I thought it too. He says, across the community, I've noticed folks doing parodies of Boom's super chat callouts. I found it disrespectful the first time, and the sixth is equally so. Why is it happening? And for me, Blind Riot, I work with Boom. That's my brother. I'm on a show with him all the time, and of course Danny was there. So
we're in the family.
Yeah, we're in the family. It's all love. He knows it. I've done it when he was here. He was on the show with us, and I was like, "Yeah, the generous, super." So it's nothing like that. It's more of a what's the word they use? Homage, if you will. Yeah, because he says it so uniquely New Yorkin and that you cannot ignore how thick his accent is when he does it. And he's like, "It's huge, brother. He got a generous." You cannot ignore how that sounds. So it is humorous to me how he sounds on it, which I'm sure I sound humorous to others too when I speak, because we all have accents. But it's so noticeable that you know what I mean, that I kind of poke at it a little bit, but it's not to mock him. It's an homage. Yeah, it's just fun. That's all it is. And I'm sure the people who are doing it as well are doing it for that same reason. So. Yeah. And a big thank you again to Lotus is Free, they, them, who drops another generous, I'm sorry, Blind Riot, $50 super chat, which we'll probably hit that prompt for again in a second. Thoroughly enjoying the discussion. Thank you, Lotus. Again, very appreciative of that.
Yeah, thank you, Lotus. I just wanted to quickly go back before we moved on. So it says in this report that more information about Gearbox. More information is going to come out in March. It also says that they had 3 options: to stay with Embracer, to go independent, or to sell themselves to another company. And it says that they most likely going to sell themselves to another company, and the deal's being finalized. So, pose a question to you guys, and you guys in the chat. If you guys want to, throw in what you guys think.
My God!
Who do you think they sold themselves to?
Yeah, there it is. Right while you were talking. Yeah. I don't know why it triggers so late. That's kind of funny to me.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, the obvious answer is like Xbox, because we know that they're still shopping.
That's where I'm going.
Yeah. I mean, you could also say PlayStation, because they're wanting to buy into live service, and Borderlands sort of lends itself to that. The price tag's pretty high, but they did also, Sony just had another big acquisition fall through. I think we talked about it a couple weeks ago, where they were trying to buy some like media company in India, and they dropped it. And I think that was a $10 billion deal. So maybe I don't know, maybe. Anything's possible.
I would love Borderlands to become first party. That'd be awesome, man. Love that game.
Yeah,
I wasn't a big fan of the new one they did, Tiny Tina's Wonderland, but I love Borderlands.
Wonderland was not great.
I haven't played that one, Tiny Tina. I'm sorry, I was typing in it for the Discord. Guys, I just shared the Discord link, so please jump in and sign up. There is something I have been wanting to do
too, Eric.
More so for the community at some point. Definitely Sony can't.
Yeah, they're down a lot of money right
now.
We'll get to that in a minute. Don't worry.
We will get to them, for sure. But I was going to say there is something I did have in mind for the community, where I want to try to get you guys more interactive with us. So it's not just like gaming topics or wrestling, whatever way we might talk about wrestling. But also I want to have some type of interactive game show kind of thing, like we can ask trivia questions here. But I also wanted to try to possibly get you guys in on a show somehow. Maybe ask a specific question, to us or whatever, something like that. I'm kind of workshopping an idea, but once I come up with something, I'll definitely present it to you guys and see how much you would like to get involved on that. But yeah, sorry. The link is again for the Discord is there, guys. Please join at your leisure. I don't know how long it has though before it might expire, so do it as quick as you can. But what do we have next, Danny?
Nintendo is doing a big suance. They're suing the pirates.
You
that
said
are
suance.
Suance. They're suing the dead. There's a popular Switch emulator made by Yuzu, and they're suing the hell out of them, basically. Emulators have in the past been considered to be a sort of a legal gray area because they don't actually sell the piracy themselves. They just enable it. But Nintendo's taking a big swing on this one, and the common consensus is they'll probably win this. So emulation might be going the way of the dodo pretty soon here, at least in the PC front. So if all your friends who were like, man, I loved playing Tears of the Kingdom on my PC, RIP y'all. They're coming for you.
It's messed up, man. It's like when I'm trying to get my super PC, you all want to pull this on me, Nintendo? How dare you? No, I feel like they're going to lose this case, though. Thing is like they're suing for the exact same thing they tried to sue for before, and they lost. And this is super litigious Nintendo we're talking about. Not to say, though, that the continuously doing it might not work in their favor. I mean, they can possibly cause the people who work on Yuzu so much because they continuously have to pay their court fees that it could force them to just abandon it. Who knows?
It could be exactly what they're trying to do, in all honesty, bro.
Yep. I hope it isn't the case because they're not breaking any laws. The court has already ruled on that, so they don't really have a case. But there are ways, right? There are slicker ways to get around that. So we'll see what happens. I feel like this though a bit about it. We all know. I get it. It's not unfair of Nintendo to want people to like not have that access to their games that way,
to pay for the product that they spend tons and tons of money making.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally fair.
I get it, right? But at the same time, do you kind of look at it like, Nintendo, you're making money hand over fist with your games you do sell, like 40 million copies sold, unheard of on any other platform.
All right.
So
if you had a business and someone was getting your stuff that you spent your blood, sweat, and tears on, would you feel the same way?
Well, if I was Nintendo, yeah, I'd be fine. If I was Nintendo and making... and I'm the richest gaming company in Japan, I'd probably be fine with that. I'll be honest. But then I'm not that greedy when it comes to money, though. I'm the wrong person to ask.
Maybe they'll go the other direction and they'll start publishing their games on other platforms like PlayStation.
Yeah. Hey, that's why we have Yuzu. That's why we have Yuzu to bring it to PC for us. Thank you, Yuzu.
Yeah, maybe they'll sue them and they'll be like, "Hey, actually though, can you put your Switch emulator on the other platform so we can play games there?"
Yeah. Let me stop before Nintendo gets me too. I'm joking, Nintendo.
They coming for you.
I'm joking. They'll get you. They'll get you. No, but I feel like they'll lose here in the court for that. But again, there could be ways around that, and one of the ways is forcing the people who are making Yuzu to pay.
Yeah, the consensus that I was seeing online is that people are like, Nintendo is really smart and extremely litigious. They don't think that they would try a second time if they didn't have some reason to think that they would win. And so it just generally has people concerned, I guess.
I think Nintendo started to tighten up once they saw the Pal World situation. They were like, this is enough. Yeah. People are taking advantage of us. Let's make an example out of somebody.
Mario gonna have to put a slap down on some people. Yeah.
Does Mario have to choke a bee?
Oh damn.
Well, you have Yuzu, but you also, I don't want to. Maybe I shouldn't say it out loud, so they'll go after them too. But you have Real Jinx. It's not like Yuzu is alone in this.
Yeah.
So
well, Maybe they'll go after other ones later. But
Yeah.
right now it's Yuzu.
They make an example out of them first. Yeah.
Yeah, hang 'em for the world to see.
Right.
Yeah, we're getting to that, Monad. We're getting to that, brother.
Yeah. So what's up? What do we have next, Danny?
So we're in the layoff territory, but there's a lot of layoffs before the big one. If you want me to start covering those ones, a lot of like smaller ones. Namely, the one that I would start here with
Sorry about that.
is no,
Yeah.
you're good. The one I would start here with is hey, Star Citizen developer Cloud Imperium has just cut a bunch of people, although the number is unclear because they didn't actually make a specific report about it. They were just seeing it online a lot, and what they said they were cutting people, but they didn't give us a number. So yeah, after 12 years of scamming, I mean developing on this game, and nearly $700 million in crowdfunding money going to literally nothing, with no release date in sight, they've had their second mass layoff in as many years over there. And I cannot help but think that if anyone gave money to this company, they should have their head checked, because damn, they have never put out anything that even remotely made a sensible human being think that game would ever be real. 12 years and $700 million, and you can't have
Ridiculous.
We got nothing.
Ridiculous.
And people be like, oh, but like there's sections of it that's playable, and I'm like, yeah, like literally 1% of what they promised is playable. Oh, but you can help to support them by buying a literal $1,000 in-game spaceship that you can't fly yet, but you can give them money for it for when you can fly it.
No,
It's like a Ponzi scheme.
It is, and I've heard people like, "Oh, I could play it. I can do this." It's like, all right.
Some people just be
Yeah.
lost in the weeds. I
Yeah,
don't
they
know,
do.
man.
Wishing, wanting, and I don't know what. Listen, the game is like you said. It's a Ponzi scheme. It's a beautiful Ponzi scheme, and
That was really nice.
it's ambitious as hell.
It's one of the prettiest lies I've ever seen.
Tell me your pretty little lies.
Yeah.
Tell me lies. Tell me sweet little lies.
There we go.
There we go. The
Y'all
one
didn't think we'd get Pete singing, but we got him.
we got him
Live in
Tell
concert.
me lies. Yeah, but no, yeah, I'm with you on that. But I will say, like, I think the ambition that game had is much like when you look at
Yeah.
Beyond Good and Evil 2. It's like we had to know that would never come to fruition at the end of the day, didn't we? It was too good to
yeah,
be true.
With Beyond Good and Evil,
They
I
were
think it
so
was
far into development,
Yeah.
bro. But that was a different situation, man. That was the passion project of a guy that fell into that was his personal life was bringing the company down, and because it was his passion project, I don't actually understand, because it was so far into development, why no one else continued it on. Like last time we saw actual gameplay of that game, it looked fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
You talking about Beyond Good and Evil?
Yeah, Beyond Good and
Yeah.
Evil 2. Yeah,
I think when they announced that, it was like because when they announced it, remember that was the year when Ubisoft was like trying to fight off being purchased by whoever that was, like Comcast or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it was some like media
yes.
company that wasn't in gaming
That's right.
otherwise.
Yeah, that's right.
And so the common consensus on that was just like they're trying to announce more things to bolster their stock so that they'll be harder to purchase. Because they also announced, like, I think that's also when they first announced like not Sea of Thieves, Skull and Bones, and like a bunch of stuff like that. So I always thought that they would follow through on that one, but here we are. It's been I think 6 or 7 years, and we are no closer to it.
Sea of Bones.
Yeah, we ain't getting
Sea
that
of
game,
Bones,
unfortunately. If
baby.
they're releasing Skull and Bones and not releasing Beyond Good and Evil 2,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like, I think there's an issue there. I think Skull and Bones only got made because the amount of money that the Singaporean government put into that project.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They wanted to, get that development in, gaming up and running in their country,
finished being
and they
made
threw a whole
because
lot
it
of money
had
at it,
to.
man.
Right.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
had to.
They were
do it.
they were legally obligated to finish that game.
What a waste, though, right? Like, what a waste. Like,
I haven't played it, but I have not heard a single person be like, you know what, it's good.
yeah, I've heard one person say it was good, and I looked
Oh,
at
no.
them. I looked at them with a side eye, like, stop
You're
it.
like, mhm.
Just
Never
you
gonna
stop.
trust your judgment in games again.
Exactly. It's like you shut your mouth. I don't believe you. No, but we played.
Vivendi, that's it, brother. Thanks,
What?
Victor.
What's that?
Vivendi was the company that was
Oh.
trying to buy Ubi.
Oh,
They
okay.
had bought like a huge, I guess it is a huge percent. I think they had bought like 20% of the company at one point.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. See, King Web said what I said. Yeah. We're looking at that. Hopefully that is the case, King Web. But for Microsoft, hopefully, Crystal Dynamics in Montreal, Eidos and all of that. Yep. What's up, TZ? What's up, brother?
Hey, TZ.
Thanks for coming through. I'm hoping. You know what? I think Lord Addict from IOP from the Iron Lord. Shout out to them. And by the way, we will definitely be trying to get our brother Lord Cognito on the show. We'll probably have to do a pre-recording for it because he does his show on Thursdays too, just so you guys are aware. But we'll be knighted.
Have all of them on the show.
Yeah, we'll be knighted soon enough. Don't you worry. Lord Umbra. I like the way that sounds.
Into the lords.
Yes. But to that thought, Lord Addict has said something along the lines of, because he didn't like the whole situation with, I don't think he was too pleased with it with Toys for Bob going independent, because he said mark my words, Nintendo or somebody snatches them up, and I wouldn't doubt that actually.
I would doubt Nintendo, but somebody else, yes. Nintendo, I don't think really does a lot of purchases.
That's true. They don't really, but they work within their, they have a bit of a feng shui with them. I feel like
that's true. It fit real nice on the shelf.
It fit real nice, like. Yeah. What else do we have though?
In other layoff news, 505 Games is in trouble. They've cut 30% of their staff. They're closing offices in Germany, Spain, and France. The one silver lining to this is before all of this started, Remedy did get the rights back to Control just before all of this was announced. So it's like they're selling off some things that they can get rid of, and then they're closing down huge amounts of their development and publishing branches. So not looking great for 505, which is a bummer because 505 is a really, really good team lately.
I agree. 505 is solid, really solid. And then what's some of the games that we know for sure 505 made, just to kind of make folks aware? And I know a few, but I can't recall them off the top of my head. They make
so they're mostly like a publisher, to my knowledge.
Yeah, that's true. Because they did publish like Death Stranding for PC and stuff like that, right? Yeah, they did. That's right.
Control, they published as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Payday, I think they might have done Payday.
Let me pull up the list.
Bloodstained. Hold on.
This list is not in order.
Okay, I thought OBS was acting up for a second. I got scared. Okay, it's not.
Hey, they did Timmy's favorite game, Gems of War.
No. Oh, what's that game where you run around like a ninja with the sword and?
That's like 400 games, my man. You've just described a genre.
Right. I know they did that. I think what do they call it? Eildeen Chronicles game. I think they did that too.
Eildeen Chronicles.
Eildeen, yeah. They published those, and Bloodstained. I know the one that was like a Castlevania kind of.
Yeah.
I want to say rip off because the original creator did it, so you can't call him a knockoff of his own creation. But what is that game? It's like Blade Runner, not Blade Runner, but something like that.
Ghost Runner.
Ghost Runner. That's it.
Looking them up now, brother.
Yeah, that's it. Ghost Runner. I remember that.
Oh, they did Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons. I really
published it because Hazelight made it, but they published it.
Okay. Yeah. Phil Spencer was just he was just talking about that Brothers the other day in a tweet. But sorry. Victor, to your question, Victor asked, what do we guys think that if Final Fantasy VII Rebirth will do well? 100%.
Oh yeah, dude. Honestly, I think it's a combination of things. Number one, I think the game's probably good. Number two, I think because PlayStation doesn't have anything else coming out this year, people who would have been playing those games will be like, oh, well, this is the biggest exclusive to PlayStation this year, so let's test this out. And then on top of that, in every single podcast that I've heard about, people being like, I'm so glad exclusives are dead. I'm so glad Xbox has not made any more exclusives. Now a word from our sponsor, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I'm like,
4-letter word why it's going to do well. Tifa.
Yeah.
I think it'll do well, bro.
Listen,
I really do.
I saw some people actually upset when they saw the revision to Tifa of her proportions, if you will.
Supposedly she is 15.
Yeah.
I don't know the world of Final Fantasy, so
yeah.
I don't know, man.
That's what the Casual spoke on that. My brother Casual, he said that she's only 15 at this point. So
Yeah.
a lot of people doing that are like doing it for the wrong reason. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I'll give the guys a benefit of the doubt. I don't think they know that she's that young. Well, maybe.
They may
I
have
don't-
changed
you know
it
what?
for this
I don't know.
one. She was definitely 15 in the original Final Fantasy VII, but at the time that the original Final Fantasy VII came out, the age of consent in Japan was 13.
Wow.
I don't know what it is
Wow.
now. I
Wow.
remember it went up, but I don't know what it is now.
Oh,
Sheesh.
Yeah.
Japan. That from the dang
now it's 16.
panty machines to
yeah,
everything
that's-
else. Sheesh.
They-
segue, man.
They increased. No, this is important. They increased the age of consent in Japan to 16 last year.
Whoa.
It was 13 until 2020, June 24th of 2023.
Shout out to their progression.
I guess so, dude.
Whoa. Inferno says Yakuza has grown women though. Yeah. A shout out to Yakuza. I love Yakuza too. I
We
need
be
to get on that.
making some choices.
Yeah. Definitely some choices.
Anyway, to move away from those choices, the next wave of layoffs we saw were from EA. EA laid off 670 people. I don't have a percentage on that, but I want to say it's probably like 9-10, something like that. As sort of repercussions of this, number one, the Battlefield narrative studio Ridgeline Games has been entirely shut down, passing the narrative workload to Criterion. The rumor was that the next Battlefield was going to come out in October of next year, but this almost certainly extends this. And they've also canceled the FPS Mandalorian game that was just leaked like a couple days ago.
That sucks.
But now it has
Just
been
gonna
officially
say that,
canceled.
Danny, bro.
It has been taken out back and shot. I will say they are saying that Dragon Age and Mass Effect are unaffected, and I don't believe it for a second. I don't believe it for a second. If we get those games, I will be shocked, and if they're good, I'll die.
Listen.
Yeah, look, Dragon Age has been what? How many revisions has it had now? 4 revisions, something like that.
I
That
couldn't
game's
tell
in
you.
development hell, bro.
Way too many.
That doesn't mean it can't come out well, though. To be fair, right?
No,
and
it's just very unlikely.
It's very unlikely. And the only reason I have that hopeful thought in my head is we look at the success of something like Dead Island 2. Dead Island 2. Yeah. Had what 4 different people on it too?
Diamond in the rough, bro.
It is.
Yeah,
It is.
I mean,
it's very rare. Very rare for a game to have that many changes and do well. Like you had, what's this game? I just where it did terrible. What was it? It had different. Oh, Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad had I think 2 or 3 director changes on it.
Yeah, they didn't switch studios like Dead Island did, but
Right.
they had a bunch of, because it was originally going to be like a Superman game apparently, and then they were like, maybe it'll be a Justice League game. And they're like, what if we kill the Justice League?
Oh wow, terrible thought process, and it causes so many problems. And me being the comic nerd I am, automatically I'm like, I don't see Harley Quinn taking down Wonder Woman. I don't know. I just and then you start seeing it in action. It's like, yeah, it was just about as stupid as I thought it was going to be plot wise.
Right.
Yeah, and then the disrespect of how they handled
I will
it.
at some point.
I watched so much like videos talking about it in the story. I was like so annoyed listening to it because it did exactly what I thought it would do, but like more stupid if that's possible. On the whole situation with the Star Wars Mandalorian game, that is disappointing for a bunch of reasons. One, it's such a talented team with Respawn. It's like, why would you let that happen? But I'm gonna guess that maybe it's a thing of priority. But these are some of the details. If you guys didn't know about it, the canceled Star Wars game, you would have played as a Mandalorian, but not Din Djarin, which is Mando. You wouldn't have played as him. So I'm gonna guess they would have had him in there somewhere. So you would have seen him in Grogu, but you would not. You would have had your own. Yeah.
Boba Fett, I would have thought as well.
Pretty
would have
much.
been in
I can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can believe that.
In Star Wars, so that they wouldn't have been able to stop themselves from throwing in characters that you recognize.
Right.
It's like their whole thing.
Or
It's the whole fan base loves that.
Or the music.
Yeah, well,
We going to Tatooine. Why?
You would have pursued bounties across the galaxy. Very fast-paced combat due to the jetpack. Main enemies were various types of stormtroopers.
Yeah.
Boss-like enemies included fighting the AT-ATs and ATSTs.
Isn't it crazy how Star Wars 1313 got canceled twice?
It is, right?
Oh, that
Yeah,
game
good point.
looked amazing,
They
bro.
brought
It
it
would have
back to.
been well.
They brought it back
This was
last
it,
week,
right?
just so they could shoot it again.
Yeah,
The
that's
worst
right.
thing about this whole respawn thing is it is respawn. You know, making a Mandalorian game set in the like it's basically Titanfall, which I love. I
Mhm.
love the combat in Titanfall, the storytelling, incredible game Titanfall 2. And so it basically would have been Titanfall with jetpacks. It would have been amazing, man. I'm so disappointed that they're not going through with that game.
Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
disappointing.
They also said something about like them reconsidering a lot of other licensed games that they're working on, which does throw into question the Iron Man and Black Panther games as well. So who knows?
Yeah, we were talking about this yesterday, Umbra. So they take an exorbitant amount of money when they do licensing, something like 70% up until it gets to a certain point, and then they make their money. So, and
Yeah.
I think it's why Phil Spencer is like really hesitant on doing licensing deals because, I mean, look, we can see what's going on with gaming at the moment. It's incredibly difficult enough to make money on games, and those licensing fees are, I think they're just too much.
Yeah.
So
So,
I mean, you look at Spider-Man and the numbers that we saw from that, it's ridiculous.
Yep.
So let me ask
Yep.
you guys this. We had a question from in the chat from my brother King Webb. He says, "Question: Do you guys think, or do you all think rather, that Intel deal with Microsoft is a great power move? I do. And if you all are not aware, Microsoft and Intel came together in a multi-billion-dollar deal to create custom chips for Microsoft. It's going to the deal will focus on chips that use Intel's 18A process technology. If you guys hadn't heard of that, well, so what they
I
explained,
think it's a big deal, but I don't know exactly like how it's going to work out. I don't know if they're using. I don't know if they've said like, "Hey, we're going to use it for the next generation of consoles." But I think that paired with that thing that Sarah Bond said the other day about like it's going to be the biggest jump in whatever.
That's my
like,
thinking too.
Makes sense.
That that's part of my thinking right there. Go ahead, Pete.
I was going to say that I don't know enough. I wrote it in the chat, but I don't know enough about the deal. But in general, I like it. I think Intel are moving their processing back to the United States. They're building a couple of plants, you know, as we speak. That's a massive investment. It's very difficult to do. The reason why South Korea owns the chip market is because it is an incredibly difficult, very high-end manufacturing, and you're gonna need to, you know, bring the talent in, learn how to develop that, and so just having someone like Microsoft backing it, I think, is a very good thing.
And just to say, like, this isn't the first time they've used them to, you know, they partnered with NVIDIA for chips and stuff like that, obviously for the production of the AI chips. If you all have paid attention at all, like your Windows, possibly 11, I think has an update. The new Samsungs have it. I have it on my phone right now. Copilot. Hell, I used it. I used Copilot to make the advert for tonight. If you all look at it, I thought I did a pretty good job with it, by the way.
The picture on it?
Yeah, the picture, I just put it in there and I come up with a bunch of different images, and you can, you know how it is with the AI. If you all haven't used it, download Copilot off of your.
I don't think you even need to download it. I think it's just in Bing now.
Yeah, you know what? It is in Bing. That's right. That's right. You can also just use Bing, and it's in there as well. I just went and got the actual app, but because it just makes it more streamlined.
Yeah, it's probably better.
Yeah, but like that right there, Microsoft has already talked about how they're moving into, you know, pushing their AI technology. So I agree with you that it's probably going to be tied to AI and possibly for the next gen consoles. That's what that seems like to me. So to your question, King Webb, I think it'll be tied to AI in some manner, and probably multifaceted from gaming to everything else that they're pushing with AI. And I'm just wondering how all of that will play out in general with the AI situation, because there was actually a question floated by Jez Gordon, Jez Gordon, who asked, let me find this really quick. He asked, and as innocently as he could without people getting ticked off, where is it? Because he had to ask this safe, because a lot of people get really like upset when you bring up AI.
Yeah.
How did he ask it? Oh, okay. He says, purely asking the question if AI dev tools, art tools could enable a AA budget or less indie game studio to have a AAA sized open world to compete with the big publishers. is that acceptable to people? Automatically, I'm 100%
Yeah.
all in. I'm just going to tell you. And I know some people will be like, hey, but it's cutting out this, it's cutting out. I get it. But as a
No,
consumer, I'm going to be honest, I don't see a downside to that.
Yeah, I mean, me and Deli had a really great conversation about that on my channel a while ago, actually.
Yeah.
Just talking about, like, there is a risk to AI if it becomes like a replacement, basically, but it can also potentially help out with the speed and cost of making games, which is a big part of why games are so expensive to make and why like AI could solve a lot of the problems that are leading to a lot of these layoffs. Not the biggest one, which is the companies are dumbasses and are hiring for an amount of like earnings that they are projecting that they might potentially earn, and then having to fire hundreds of people when they don't make it. That's the biggest problem. But if they can save money and time on making the games, that'll help them achieve those goals. So
I was going to say, I don't know if we're going to go into this conversation a little bit further in our next topic, but yeah, look, 100% I agree with that. There needs to be a change in this industry. Look how many jobs we're losing at the moment. So people and I understand it. Yeah, people think that AI are going to replace their jobs. Nobody wants that, but I still think it's a creative industry. The main source of like where you're going to get that creation is going to be a human being. I mean, we're just not there with computer programs and AI, and I think that's going to be a gradual step. But if you can, like Danny said, I think he said it perfectly. If it can help with the reduction of costs and maybe push forward the process so it's done, on in less time, then I see it being a good thing overall.
Yeah. No, yeah, I can see that for sure. I just know that there's going to be pushback because people will ultimately they're going to feel like this threatening their jobs. And I can definitely understand that.
Yeah, I think if AI being used to like make games and the existence of video game unions are happening around at the same time, then like those two things will balance each other out, where like we can get the benefits without having to worry about like, and we've written or removed our entire writing staff from this team, like hopefully, because you would think that would be a big thing that they would want to protect.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I don't know if it's AI exactly, but just as an example, remember when they showed off MetaHuman for Hellblade, and they were able to change the face of the character and have the lip syncing and the facial animations all done, and you didn't need to actually.
You're talking about with Epic, right? You're talking about with Unreal Engine.
Yeah, exactly. So they had the actress then doing, acting out that role, and then they overlaid that with a different nationality, and but it was like basically the same woman, but the computer took over it. So I think that will reduce the time and the cost in development, and I don't think it'll impact that many people's jobs. So I think in that sense it's a good thing.
No, I definitely agree with that. I mean, ultimately and I've said this before, I've talked about it on the Infinite podcast when we had our brother Colt there, who liked my perspective. I mean, who wouldn't, right? No, seriously, my point.
What's with you and name dropping, bro?
Hey, I got to give our people in the community a name, a shout out. I shout out everybody from the big names to everybody here in our chat. It's our family. I got to shout them out. But I had mentioned that time is on our side. No, it's not.
Oh my God.
No, it ain't. Time is not on our side. And when it comes to game development, we've seen it more and more that, these projects that they're working on sometimes take exorbitant amount of hours. I mean, time is 7 years for some of these projects. That's ridiculous. We used to get in Bad Bit, shout out to him. He said on Boom's podcast, he pointed out that we used to have situations where we would get a Halo 2 and a 3 with this in the same generation. Two excellent, great games, by the way. They both had their own development issues, obviously, Halo 2 particularly, but still, at the end of the day, we had legendary games from that. We don't get that really nowadays. I think the only workhouse studio you really see that with is Insomniac, which also faced ridiculous layoffs. And I'm sure that's part of it. I don't either. Yeah. That was my attempt at a segue.
Well, I've got one more, but it's a good aperitif for the PlayStation talk specifically because it's directly related to them. If you're ready for that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so another studio that's in big trouble as a result of what we're talking about as the main topic is Fire Sprite. So Fire Sprite Studios has been going through absolute hell lately. If you don't know, this is a PlayStation-owned VR studio behind Call of the Mountain, that one where people played it for 5 seconds after it came out, got to the top of the mountain, wrote Xbox sucks, and then never played the game again because it's VR. So let me start by saying that Fire Sprite is a studio that was started by remnants of a previously closed Sony studio called Studio Liverpool that was supposed to be making smaller games, maybe VR titles. I'm not really sure, but smaller games for them. And they, starting like a year ago, started shedding talent left and right. And of course, now they've been affected by these layoffs. They were getting hit really hard by crunch, probably because they didn't have enough people to meet their deadlines. And their upper leadership all ended up leaving, to the point where Sony sent in XDev to help them sort of sort their ship out. And instead of doing that, they introduced sexual harassment, discrimination, and created a toxic workplace. So the exact opposite of what everyone wanted. One person said, it seems leadership doesn't need to be earned and trust is gone. Another source described them as an inadequate, toxic mess. Tyrants and bullies who treat people like it's a factory.
Wow.
They're describing it as a death by 1,000 cuts. People only stayed with Fire Sprite up until now because when they were bought by PlayStation like 2 years ago or whatever it was, there was a retention bonus for staying to a certain time period. And that time period has ended and pretty much everyone is cashing out. To the point where they were previously working on a Twisted Metal live service game that has been canceled because there's now not enough people to work on it. Glassdoor reviews have been really awful for Fire Sprite and PlayStation since. Some people wrote it was horrendous. Studio heads who are way out of their depth and just care about their money, leading to a toxic bullying culture and culture of fear. One recent review takes a more sympathetic view, though, stating that Fire Sprite's old ways were disorganized and Sony had remolded the studio, which had ruffled many feathers. So basically, Sony killed a studio, bought the studio that the people who left that original studio started, ran that into the ground to the point where people started quitting. When the upper leadership quit, sent in their own guys who made everything worse, and then as soon as people could get out and still keep their money, the studios basically killed itself and imploded.
Wow.
So
Wow. So
sorry, Daniel. You said something that I hadn't heard. So the Twisted Metal project, which I was actually looking forward to, has been cancelled.
Gone.
Wow. Even with the TV show coming out, that's terrible.
Oh, wait. Was Danny about to hit some notes on us?
That was the one note, the whole note. But no, yeah, it's gone. PlayStation has done exactly what everyone was afraid Xbox was going to do to all their studios, which is put their hand directly all the way in the pot, stir it up, break it.
Yep.
Wow.
This is very unfortunate. And it reminds me, though, of a situation in some ways of like Moon Studios.
Yeah.
Moon had a situation like that where they were like really toxic behind the workplace that we didn't know about.
Yeah.
It's really unfortunate. And how soon did they pick up Fire Sprite? That Sony didn't get them, but like
it was very recent.
Yeah, like last year or a year before that. Like it couldn't have been that long.
Yeah, it was really recent. Moon Studios' new
September
game is coming out pretty soon. No Rest for the Wicked. Can't wait for that game, man.
Yeah,
that's very soon. Wow.
But I also think this is. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I had finished, but that's like what within a couple of years. I thought Sony were meant to be, the team that was able to turn it around. I'm sure that's what their intention was. But what about so Fire Sprite was in Liverpool, was it? And then they completely shut down London Studios. It looks like they're basically pulling out of the UK.
Well, the UK, but also it's both of their VR studios.
Yes.
Those are the only two internal VR studios they owned. Meanwhile, they are still continuing to push and claim the success of the PSVR 2.
Yeah,
So
it's crazy when they announced
and
the
actions,
London
not beating it
studios
up.
and what they were actually working on. It was meant to be the next big thing. I remember the PlayStation community saying, this is going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. And
Yeah.
after years of development, we will get nothing. We'll never see this game. This game will never see the light of day.
No,
Yeah.
go on.
So let me ask you guys like this. I'm getting to be an older gentleman. Birthday just passed, turned 42. Still youthful as hell looking, because it's
ancient, bro.
it's the melanin
Yeah.
in my skin. Saying we just don't age like that. You know what I mean? Sorry, everybody else. Well, except Chinese people. Asian people seem to age like we do. So, shout out to our Asian brothers and sisters. They age like us. No, I'm joking. Seriously, the ageism was one of the things brought up with it. Like, what do you guys
Ageism.
think about that? With ageism, like, what is
I'm
it?
not entirely sure
Yeah.
how that would have come up, and none of the reviews were specific in that.
Mm-hmm.
My assumption is that maybe they were trying to have like younger people work on VR because it's a newer tech, and they were like treating the older people like they would never understand what it was, because the people who were 42 were
Right.
we're talking about like, what, y'all ain't never heard of the Virtual Boy?
Back in my day,
Back in my day, everything was red.
everything was red and black. And
It's crazy to me, man. Creative people will always be creative people, regardless of their age,
Yeah,
or
100%.
anything like that. So that doesn't make any sense to me, man.
Especially in an industry that is so heavily impacted by just experience. It's ludicrous to me. I understand that VR is like a new technology, but making games is not. So I don't get it.
I do want to point out something. Like, besides, I want to ask you guys, like, and then I'll say this last part, we can move on because I don't want to take this too long, but the live service Twisted Metal game, I know Boom was particularly upset about that, and a lot of people love Twisted Metal. It's a classic, right? What's your guys' thoughts about that, like losing out on that? And would you have preferred a regular, let's say a standard Twisted Metal with a campaign and then multiplayer suite, or live service makes sense to you? What are you thinking on that?
It could make sense. I think I am in a place where, because I used to really like Twisted Metal. I thought it was fun. My favorite character was Axel because it was just stupid.
Yeah.
Just a dude wedged between two wheels. That's hilarious. But I think after watching the Twisted Metal show, I would rather slam my balls in a car door than experience that franchise any further. So I'm not super mad that it's gone. I'm just more upset about the team, because so that studio almost certainly going to be shut down or something very soon. I hate to say it, but I'm kind of a pessimist, and it just doesn't feel like they could survive long.
Mm-hmm.
And even without that, PlayStation has shut down 4 studios in the last 4 years. That's the thing that's been passed around lately, because they just shut down London Studio, who is a smaller VR studio.
Mm-hmm.
They shut down Pixel Opus in 2023. They shut down Japan Studio in 2021 and Manchester Studio in 2020. So they're just backing down. Like, I think it is absolutely ludicrous that people are like, why don't people run their things like how PlayStation does it? And you mean into the ground?
yeah. And that's the kind of thought I was going to go to with that. Pete, did you want to speak on that about the Twisted Metal thing before I move to that?
I'll just say quickly that I remember going and renting. I had a sleepover at my house with a couple of mates when we were quite young, and we rented a PlayStation out, and we hired out Twisted Metal and another game. I don't even think we got to the other game because we had so much fun playing Twisted Metal, and so it's kind of near and dear to my heart. I also think that it quite lends itself to a live service game, and if done well, could have been really, really fun. So it's disappointing news to me.
Yeah, it would have been nice too to have them revitalize one of their older IP. I know a lot of people have been asking
100%.
for it. Yeah, and Sony doesn't do enough of that, in my opinion. They've gone so gung ho on the whole AAA, which is part of the discussion of the night. This AAA over the shoulder action type thing, and I think it's been to their detriment because they've kind of lost, in my opinion, they've lost a bit of that identity of theirs with their diversity. Microsoft has more diversity now.
Way more diversity.
Yeah.
I mean, really across the board. Like, like we're talking about in terms of games, but also just in terms of like genres of games, locations in which studios are, like
so true.
Races, creeds, colors of people working on those games, people in leadership positions. Like
night and
Xbox
day.
does a really good job. If you are looking at a video game studio and the word you're looking to fill is diversity, you're looking at Xbox.
I agree.
Much every time.
100%. and I'm sure that was a very concerted effort by them to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And
so
also,
go ahead.
it's not just like diversity hires for the sake of diversity. Like every single person that they put in those positions does an amazing job. So.
True, and they're not just there
I think
as
they are
tokens
hired
or
on the case
anything.
of merit.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think they're doing quotas or anything like that.
Absolutely
but we
not.
all know that through different cultures and things like that, we get better storytelling.
True.
So
Yeah.
I think it's, in creative industries, I think it's important.
Yeah, no, 100% agreed.
Yeah.
But just to touch on
Anyway,
this, and just to touch on this, so we can move on. Eurogamer understands that the studio is also separately working on another high-profile game for Sony. I wonder what that could be. That they were also working on that's now likely not going to happen. But this is my thing I was going to touch on here, and you made a good point of this when you said it, Danny. It says ahead of these layoffs, sources say an alarming number of employees had left the studio in recent months following a retention bonus payout in October, designed to reward staff for remaining on the studio after the acquisition. So this is my thing. Why is it that the double standard of media coverage is so different? This right here would never fly if it was Microsoft. If Microsoft, if this would have been, for one, for them to have known that the media, you didn't really hear reported like that. That's one. Two, it would have been far more drastically negative. Had this been Microsoft that this, a studio under them that this happened with, versus Sony, and it's kind of hey, this happened. You don't see Jason Schreier posting something about this to trash Sony for this right here, as I believe he would have if it was Microsoft.
No, it's so it's that, and then there's a bigger part of it that's been really pissing me off, actually. And I don't want to make this about console wars, because like obviously these layoffs have nothing to do with like which company is doing a better job, because it's happening literally everywhere. But there's been this new wave of like, now everyone's concerned, because like I was listening to a podcast, and I won't say which one, but they said if it can happen to Sony, it can happen to anybody. And I was like, were we not already at that point? Like, we've lost like 10,000 people last year. We're at like 7,000 people already this year. Like, why do we think that PlayStation would be immune to this? Especially because also in every single article that I was pulling information from for the PlayStation layoff story, every single one felt the need to point out, but Xbox laid off more than that a couple months ago. And I was like, eat my balls, actually. And it's like, because it's just like, okay, let's look at the two companies objectively in terms of the numbers that they've been making. Microsoft, every single thing is growing, and people will be like, oh, but their console sales aren't growing as much as they should be. We've talked to people from Microsoft who look at the console sales numbers, and they're like, yeah, they're not like the most amazing thing in the world, but we're happy with them. Like every single metric of theirs is growing, and people are like, but not fast enough. Meanwhile, we're looking over across the pond to PlayStation. What's going on over there? They missed their sales goals. They dropped $20 billion in value. They have no games for an entire year. They're out here trying really hard to pretend that second-party deals are first-party deals, to the point where they are convincing people that Helldivers and Final Fantasy are first-party games, when they're not. Like people are talking about how like, oh my god, we were so wrong. We thought that PlayStation couldn't do live service games, but look at Helldivers. And I'm like, they didn't do that one. That's not answering the question of whether or not they could do it, because it's not them.
Media doesn't help that either, but Danny, in all honesty, and the bias that they show towards them.
Yeah, no, it's just like, it blows me away of like, because it's like, people have been upset about all of the layoffs up until this point, but for some reason they're like, but now it's real. Now it's industry wide. Before, it was Microsoft they were messing up. Before it was, EA they were messing up. And we're ignoring the fact that this is the biggest singular chunk that PlayStation has laid off, because they laid off 900 people. Right. So that's the biggest chunk that they've done in the last couple of years, at least. Every single team that was affected as part of this had already faced a smaller layoff earlier last year. True. Insomniac had a layoff. Naughty Dog had a layoff. Guerrilla had a layoff. Firespray, this is their second layoff. Like, they shut down Pixel Opus. They shut down Japan Studio. Like, This is not new for PlayStation. What the hell do you mean if it can happen to PlayStation, it can happen to anybody? It is happening to anybody. It has been happening to anybody. Right. What industry have you been looking at?
Yep.
10% of their workforce, bro. That's a lot, man.
Yeah, it's the same percentage as Microsoft.
Yep.
But also they've been doing a lot of other layoffs lately, so it's unclear.
And just to add to that too, like speaking of that, you would think that certain studios are kind of untouchable. One of them being Insomniac, which I spoke on earlier, and again, and I think we can transition to that now because we got like 30 minutes, and I want to make sure we cover the main topic. But Insomniac being one of the main ones, I mean, major workhouse studio, revered by pretty much everyone. Xbox,
Carrying
PlayStation,
the PS5
anybody.
on their back.
Absolutely.
4 games in 4 years.
Yep.
Busting their ass.
Mhm.
And you hit them with 2 layoffs in 2 years when you have owned them for 3.
Yeah, that's pretty insane. I think you would think that they would be untouchable, especially with just much revenue they bring in with the games they make. You would think that, but even they.
I was just gonna say, like, if you're not gonna touch any one of your studios, you would think you would touch the one you wouldn't touch the one that's literally been keeping you alive in the PlayStation 5 generation with Spider-Man, Miles Morales, Ratchet and Clank, Spider-Man 2. I mean, the amount of games and the quality of games that they're putting out, I just can't understand how they could fire anyone from that studio. And I guess that nobody's immune and they don't want to play favorites, but with Insomniac, you should be playing favorites. They definitely should have been left alone.
No, I agree 100%. I just don't think that you should have a team, and I know the people there who are affected are asking the same questions we're asking. They have to be. I mean, if I'm a part of a studio or a team or anything at work, and I know that we're personally like responsible for an uptick in sales and productivity and all these other things, and it's like, hey, we have to let a few of you guys go. I'll be like, what? Why? We're doing everything right. What's the problem? And I think this calls to a bigger conversation, and that's kind of why I titled things the way I did tonight. Danny, did we have anything else that we had to cover, or?
Nope, we're in your hands now.
So that goes to our main topic here, and because I could have easily, when you kind of talk about this topic right here enough times, it starts to feel depressing, right? Because we start covering this and we're like, oh, this person was laid off, this person was laid off, and you don't want it to sound monotonous and like it's nothing after a minute, because this all matters and these people matter, but you don't want to cover it half-assed, so you know what I mean, and you also don't want to continuously cover it, because as an audience, I can imagine for you guys it's not fun to continuously hear doom, right? Nobody wants to keep hearing that. It makes you feel away after a minute. I would think. I personally do, at least. So I kind of wanted to change this and say, how can we differentiate ourselves with a discussion on this as what's happening, and kind of give thoughts of a solution, because none of us know. But I'm an optimist by nature, and I kind of like to call me Optimus Prime. I kind of like to give an uptick to, or at least a positive view on what could change for the better. So the question of the day is, are AAA games, are we headed for a AAA gaming crash? And a lot of signs seem to point to yes. So I wanted to get you two gentlemen, and everybody in the chat too, I want to get you guys' thoughts on this and possible solutions that you guys think, because I don't think any of us are elevated over anybody else. I think everybody's opinions are valid and on what we see here, except KJ. KJ's doesn't matter. No, I'm joking. But yeah, no, definitely want to get you guys' thoughts too in the chat. So please share what you think they could do, at least as far as these things go. But AAA gaming, we've seen so many issues with this, fellas, and one of the key things is, again, we talk about Insomniac, who brought in so much money. Now we know though that Spider-Man 2 cost an upwards of $315 million, and that's not even including marketing. Just $315 to make the game, apparently.
Yeah.
So that leads to two different discussions. One being is, how are they going to, in studios in general, from Microsoft to Sony to, I would have said Nintendo, but Nintendo's not having this issue.
Well, because their budgets are significantly lower.
True, and they've shown a path to success. Now, to be fair, Nintendo has something that neither Sony or Microsoft have, with their family-friendly approach to things and like that, and the nostalgia that's just embedded within us all, because all of us have played or know of these games or these IP. From Pokemon to Mario, we all know them. So it's kind of hard to ignore that. But it seems like we're headed to a crash when it comes to AAA at least. And I think that from the earnings, at least that these studios bringing in, are not earning ends meet enough. And it's causing a lot of issues for this. So I think it's a lot of different facets to this. I think a lot of these people are really greedy too. And I think it's going to end up leading to us on the consumer side of things getting charged more. 100%. And I know that's what they're angling for. Yep. And it seems to be Sony leading that charge, and which is upsetting to me because I squarely blame them for the $70 game. I know they weren't the first to start it, but being the market leader, when they joined, that was the wrap. So yeah. I feel like they'll be also at the forefront of $100 games. You know what I mean? And it's already ridiculous enough. It's one of the solutions that I would throw out there that I feel is now inevitable when it seems like Microsoft was ahead of the curve, is a lot of these games are going to go third party.
There you go, multi-platform.
Multi-platform for a fact. I can see Sony by the end of this year, if not next year, earlier next year, or around the time, I say earlier next year, if not this year, where they announce that Wolverine, for instance, will go day and date to PC. And I think and I think it's more or less out of their hands at this point. I think it's going to be something that Disney possibly reinforces and pushes. That's what I'm wondering.
Well, it won't even need to be Disney, because we saw how aggressive the amount of money they have to pay to Disney for those licenses is, to the point where you need to find more audiences. And the console space, they say that it's plateauing. I personally think they're not pushing enough to. Okay, I don't think that they're pushing enough in the console space to grow it. I think that the console space has platformed because they are not making efforts to push into new markets. If you look at Africa, if you look at the Asian subcontinent like India, or East Asia like Russia, console gaming almost doesn't exist because it's a little bit more difficult to move product into those regions, and so people just don't. And so there's like half the planet cannot find consoles to purchase in a store, and they're like, what could we possibly do? Where could we possibly find more customers to buy our product? And it's like, well, have you tried anywhere else? There's parts of
India
South America
has
where you're
1.2 billion people there.
So it's like,
I mean, that would be the obvious market that I would thought that they would go to. They do have quite advanced technology over there. They have quite a developed PC market over there. That's where I would be looking for growth.
Yeah, so they're not trying hard enough to grow the console space, in my opinion. However, in terms of are we going to a crash? I think so, yes. I think that it has to. I don't think it'll be as bad as the when was that, like the 80s or something? Like the one where the industry almost died? Right. I don't think we're looking at a situation like that. I think what we're looking at is all of these companies are going to have to rethink how they work themselves, or they're going to go out of business. Because so many of these companies are going, okay, we are projecting that next year we're going to make $60 billion. That means we can hire 4 million people. And then when they don't hit that goal, even though they're growing, even though they're making more money than ever every single year, they're like, oh, but we didn't hit this exorbitant number that we set for ourselves that we could never possibly achieve. So we have to drop all these people. I think that this is a situation where companies are either going to have to learn that this constant growth is not achievable. It is not achievable to say, I'm going to be like, I want to be an Olympic sprinter, and to do that, I'm going to just run a new world record 100-meter dash. No, you're not. No, you're not. You got to work your way up to it. You can't just hire all these people as if you're at a point of growth that you are hoping to achieve. You have to grow as you grow. That's how normal companies function. And I don't understand why these big tech companies, like, it seems like the bigger a company gets, the less they think about making sense of the money that they have. Like, they lose idea of what they are capable of right now, because they're so busy looking at like what they're hoping that they can be in the future. And so they end up in this pit of just this constant negative spiral. Like look at Square Enix, where they're selling pretty well their games, and every single time, even like Final Fantasy 16 that did well in terms of sales numbers and like was very highly critically acclaimed, they're like didn't meet our expectations. Boy, what were your expectations?
Right.
Why are you setting yourself up like that?
Yeah.
Like if your previous games did this and this did better than all of those, why are you not happy? Like I will never understand that. So yeah, we're absolutely heading to a crash. I don't think that it's going to be a situation where like all of a sudden, you know, video games are going out of style and oh no, we have to fear for the existence of this industry. No, I think that a lot of these bigger companies are going to eat a dick, and a lot of the smaller companies who are growing reasonably and like sufficiently are going to grow to be direct competitors to bigger companies who couldn't figure out how to run themselves. Because if you look at it, a lot of these smaller teams aren't laying off anybody. You look at like a not super massive but super giant, where their team's like 20 people, and every time they put out a game, it's a game of the year contender. And it's like, why are we not looking at that? They put out a game where the budget is feasible, and then they break the record of what they were expecting to make the money off of that game every single time.
Yep.
We can't be constantly, and I think Phil Spencer and team seem to know this because they're putting out a lot more AA games.
Yep.
We cannot continuously make nothing, looking at you PlayStation, nothing but games that cost $300 million, and on top of that have a licensing fee where we have to sell 16 billion units before we make 1 cent, because that doesn't make sense. Like I don't understand how companies that have been so smart for so long have gotten themselves into a position where they can't pay their own employees, because they're like, it's almost like they're taking loans on people's livelihoods, where they're like, if we hire 600 people right now, then we can make this game this amount faster. And then if this makes that much money, then we can afford to pay those 600 people that we already hired. And it's like, okay, well, what would have happened if you didn't hire those 600 people? Okay, well, we were already making more money than ever. So the people who were already there and were already making the games would have stayed there and would have made the game, and that game would have made more money than the last one, because they always do, pretty much. And then we could have maybe hired 50 people. And the next time we put out another game, and we could hire another 50 people. And then so on and so forth until we got to that 600 number. But no, we wanted it all right now. And we couldn't figure out how to make that work, and we didn't hit the goal that we set. And so now we have to fire 900 people or 1900 people or 670 people or 90 people at every studio in the industry, because we have no concept of what we are capable of. We are so concerned with hitting an unachievable goal that we can never be happy with what we have, even if what we have is better than what we've ever had before. And it's fucking ludicrous.
Yep. Now, let me ask you, Danny, and I want to go to Pete too. Do you think the overwhelming capitalism and greed is part of the issue here for this?
Greed, yes. Capitalism, no. So capitalism has a lot of flaws, and I'm not going to get into that. The problem is not a capitalistic society. The problem is people like not understanding how capitalism works and being like, okay, well, we have to do this 100% of the time or the company will fail. And it's like, no, it won't. If you fail to reach this growth, you'll have the same amount of money as what you had before. Like if I'm go to the gym and I'm like, today I'm going to run a 5-minute mile, and I don't hit it, and I have to slow down the timer, and I can run like a 4-minute and like a 5-minute and 10-second mile instead of the 5-minute one I was achieving or trying to reach, then I can still be like, oh well, last time I did it in 5 minutes and 15. This time I did it in 5 minutes and 10. Like I don't think it's capitalism is the problem. I think it's bad business. It's just I think it's people just being like, oh my god, our board says we need to hit this, and we are too fucking terrified to talk to these people and tell them that that's not realistic. And honestly, it's part of the reason why I have so much respect for Hiroki Totoki over on the PlayStation side of things, because he basically just came out in a QA and he was like, that's not going to happen. Okay, if you want us to hit these numbers, we're gonna have to take our games to PC. We're gonna have to take our games to
Mhm.
mobile. We're probably gonna have to publish on other platforms. This is going to
Mhm.
fundamentally change the way that PlayStation works, and I'm okay with doing that because I'm Hiroki Totoki and I'm the money guy. But I want you to understand that what you're asking for is not an overnight thing.
Yep.
Like he just came out
I
and
think
said it exactly how it was.
What if he did talk? What if he talked like that too when he was over there? It'd be hilarious if he was actually talking just like that. Like, listen, this is what we're gonna do. And he like, but he did it in Japanese, so it's more like, I'm sorry, y'all. Go ahead, Pete.
Well, I think capitalism will breed solutions, in all honesty. Like, so the market will restructure itself to a point where, you know, it's successful again. I don't see AAA game failing. I don't think we're headed to, you know, a crash per se, but I think the restructuring needed to happen, and I think some reverting needed to happen, especially after COVID. The growth within the gaming industry probably went up about a decade because everybody was home and nothing to do but play games. So there was, you know, a growth that companies tried to take an advantage on that. They probably hired too many people, and now we're reverting back to a place where, you know, I think we more need to be, unfortunately. I think that there are solutions there. So you're going to need to restructure. You're going to need to think of how much money you can spend on a AAA game before you start making money. I think, Danny, you said it perfectly. The licensing thing is going to be a problem. But we've seen, you know, for a while now, companies reluctant to take risks. It's why we're getting so many sequels. You know, it's why we're getting, you know, The Last of Us 2 and Spider-Man 2, because they're afraid to release a new IP, because the point of entry and the point to make that game is just become exorbitant now, and that's just a very difficult risk to take. And when you have these board members that are in it for the money and not so much for the passion of actually creating a good product, they don't want to take that risk. I think Microsoft is ahead of its time. I think one of the best solutions to this problem that I can see is Game Pass. It limits the amount of you know, success that you need to have for every single game, because you have a subscription service model now where you're earning a certain amount of money every time. And so, you know, if some games succeed, some games will fail, but at the end of the day, you've got that constant revenue stream, you know, in order to, you know, continue to make these games, and therefore you can take risks. And we're seeing, because of Game Pass, so many brand new IPs that we've never seen before. I love that. I think another solution, Umbra, is just the technology. So Unreal Engine 5, everybody's prophesizing that it's actually going to reduce development time. I hope this is the case. You know, I think that development does take too long, and I think if we can reduce any amount of time that takes, that'll reduce the amount of money that it costs to make the game. I think like things like meta human, where you can, you know, put people's faces onto, you know, other faces. You no longer need actors to act out everything. It can be done by a computer. I think that'll reduce time. I think you need to think outside the box, and maybe get a company to build like jumping in a game, or, you know, just any movement side that you can move from game to game, so you don't have to constantly do the same thing, and make this, you know, make the movement style like for every single game, where you can kind of, you know, just have a one size fits all thing, so you can place them into different games. I think there's a lot of things that can be done. One thing that I am pretty sure about is I don't think you can nickel and dime customers anymore. I think $70 we've seen is a bit of a problem. Not only that, the amount of microtransactions in games has become a problem. So
Absolutely.
I don't know if you can, you know, take blood out of a straw, you know, for example. So you need
Hold
to
on.
open
We're
this up
gonna
to more
need
markets.
you to explain that, because I can guarantee you most of us don't know that saying you just said.
Did you mean blood out of a stone?
That's the one
Blood
we
out of
know.
stone, sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
I was gonna say, is that an
misspoke, sorry.
Australian thing?
Yeah,
Okay, I was gonna say,
Yeah,
tell us.
but you can't get blood out of a stone.
Okay.
Sorry,
I was
I
like,
misspoke. Yeah.
I thought it was an Australian
So-
saying, like you can't get a roof from a Kang or something. I don't know. Y'all, you know how y'all talk.
And Microsoft have taken steps. You know, they've opened up, you know, all their games to launching day and date on PC to open it up to different markets. So I think Microsoft are well ahead of their time. They no longer want to do the console warring things because we spoke about it the other day. They're already launching 4 games going onto PlayStation. There's the 50 million people that have PlayStation 5s in their houses right now. If Microsoft can monetize those people, it means that more games can be made. It means that more people can keep their jobs. I think at the end of the day, and I think I said it on the Infinite podcast, that once you lose people out of an industry, it's very difficult to get them back because these people will then find another job and they'll never come back to the industry, and lose talent like that, the industry suffers as a whole. So I definitely think there needs to be a change.
It's been a long time coming, but I know change gonna come. Melted your ears, didn't I, Pete? I know. He's over there like.
It's pretty good. It was really good, actually.
See,
That's probably my favorite.
That's all
That's probably
right.
my favorite
That's
music break
all right,
you've
bro.
ever
Thank
had,
you,
actually.
Daddy. Thank
That
you,
was
Daddy.
really nice.
See, Daddy could be
Um,
honest. Pete over there
I
like.
I thought that one was really good. But I think you're right. I think you and your lyrics were right. And also that Pete was right. It may not technically be a crash. I don't think the industry is gonna like go under or anything. I'm not out here to doom and gloom and be like, oh, Xbox is dead, PlayStation is dead, the whole industry is going down. Guess we'll, I don't know, go back to books like like Rand wants, I guess.
Yeah, I know, right?
But
I told him to start a book club.
I'll join. I've been reading lately. But no, it obviously this is not the last story we're going to hear about layoffs. It's going to continue. It's going to get worse. There's going to be a lot of people laid off, and hopefully some people are going to learn some lessons, because we can't do this again. And I understand, like, Business Daniel understands that, like, this is a thing that also just normally happens in industries, as industries grow and grow and grow, and then they hit a point where they're kind of slow down in the growing and they can't figure out what to do, and so they plateau and it kind of breaks down, right? I understand that, and so, like, I guess I'm not as mad as I don't think the industry is dying. I understand this is a normal thing that happens in the sort of life cycle of industries and of business, but it sucks ass. I don't think that they're like, this is terrible, and it's not going to stop. It's going to continue for the entirety of this year. We read on this channel, like a month ago or something, like start of the year, that people, like executives who chose to remain unnamed for, I think at this point, some very clear reasons, were saying this is not 2023 was the year of layoffs. 2024 is going to be the year of closures, studios being closed, and we've already seen 3. Toys for Bob is probably pretty close to that as well. Like, teams are going to shut down this year. There's going to be at least 1 or 2 big name studios that are going to shut down this year, and it's going to break all of our hearts. And it's because of this. It is because the industry isn't growing the way that people who thought it would grow exponentially forever thought it would. And they were incapable of being happy with what they had. And for that reason, thousands upon thousands of people are going to lose their jobs. We're going to see people bleeding from the industry and going to other more sustainable places. Like there's going to be a lot of programmers who are going to go off to banking or like the private sector or whatever, because it's a more sustainable job and it honestly probably pays better. And we're never going to get that talent back. We're going to get to the other side of all these layoffs and all these closures, and we're going to say, why aren't games as good as they used to be? And it's like, oh, because we just lost so much of the like high-end experience that was in the industry.
100%,
because now they're
and I
looking
don't think
at
enough
like
people are talking about it, Danny. Yeah.
They're looking at stocks or banks
yeah.
or whatever.
I was just going to say that as well. Like, so whenever an industry gets as big as gaming, and it's the biggest entertainment industry we have, there are people that don't actually care for the industry just coming in, trying to make money off it, trying to make a profit of it. All these executives that just look at the bottom line and don't think about creating a good product or anything like that. And they will try and nickel and dime you. And I think these people need to be weeded out. I think you need to have, like, and thank goodness we've got Phil Spencer at the head of Xbox, because I really do believe he has gaming's best interest at heart whenever he makes any of his decisions. Yes, of course, money does factor into it. You know, any businessman, you know, knows that needs to be front and center. But I also think that he does want gaming to succeed, and he wants the best for gaming. And I think that a lot of the executives have lost that mindset, and I think that needs to be brought back a little bit. And Umbra, I just wanted to say one thing: you should never make Risk it a mod, bro.
I 100% agree. You know, I hit him with a low blow. He said, "I got feelings," you know. No,
You should never have power, bro. Ever.
I made a mistake. Yes, mistakes have been made. Mistakes have been made. Listen, I want to give another shout out and read the super chat from our new friend Lotus Esprit. They sent in the chat a $50, another $50 super chat, another generous, stupendous $50 super chat to say, "Preach." That was for you, Danny, I believe, at that time, because you were going in. But I'm going to take it as if that was for me. So you're right. Yes, I preached. No, I'm trying. I'm not going to go too far, and I think you gentlemen covered it perfectly. My only thing would be that the change that's going to have to come outside, like you pointed out, the nickel and diming, right? We talk about a lot of these service games. I think a lot of those are kind of nickel and diming, and I think that's part of the problem. I think a lot of us are kind of getting. I think we've met a saturation point, and that I think a lot of us are kind of tired of that style of gaming, by and large, I would say, because there's only so many that work, as we all know, right? There's not a plethora of live services just always all are working great. Typically, they fail, and that's why Sony reduced theirs, or at least delayed their 12 to 6. Right? We'll never see those other 6, but. Not anytime soon. And I think because of the nature of where things are going right now, that is why. And I think it's going to have to be changes on game design. You all touched on that as well. They're going to have to be smaller budgets. They're going to have to be smaller budgets and less time put into it, because I don't know how true this is, but there were tweets made and shared by let me find this gentleman, by a gentleman named Botox Games, and in his tweets he talks about Spider-Man, for instance, remastered going to PC.
Yeah,
apparently that was $40 million just to port it.
This is kind of unrelated, but do you think that whenever they like remaster or do like this game of the year shit that they've been doing with all their games lately, do you think they have to pay the licensing fee again, or does it count as the same game? Like, is that why they're
That's
doing
a good
it?
question, actually. That's actually a good question. I would.
Is it like a legal gray area where they're like, it's the same game, we're just re-releasing it.
Yeah.
Don't take my money.
I think Disney is smart enough to make sure they're going to get paid twice. So I would.
Disney at the door.
Yeah, like, hey, I want my money. I want my money, man. Talking like Stewie. I want my money.
Yo, Totoki, where my money at?
Yo, Totoki. Totoki. No,
Now you got something for Totomi in there.
Totomi. Totoki. You got Totomi? Sorry, y'all. But no, I can see that. I can see Disney being smart enough to make sure they're going to get their money into perpetuity when it comes to things like this. But there's $40 million right there to produce a remaster that went to PC and everything like that. Ratchet and Clank itself cost $81 million to make. So just to go to that,
make smaller games.
Exactly, it's going to have to be smaller games. I think just the scope of it, right? And yeah, okay, Breakpoint right here is a perfect example. And I was talking about this with Pete and the guys earlier, and yesterday for you, Pete. The size of Ubisoft games. This game is incredibly enormous. I'm not joking. It is gigantic. I'm actually very impressed by Ubisoft Paris on what they did with this, as far as the detailing and everything like that. It's so much to cover. You're not going to run out of things to do in this game. You're going to get bored before that happens and just move on. But I think that's part of the problem, that is like an oversaturation of things to do in a game, and so much time had to go into making this, and to other games where I think it stops not only the creativity of what could be done in a game, because you kind of at a point just hitting off checklist. Okay, we got this mission type over here. We're going to have that run into the ground by you continuously doing this thing throughout the game, repeatedly. Now, gameplay loops matter, right? Because some games play better than others, even though you're doing the same thing over and over. But I think when you have an exorbitant amount of time put into something like an Ubisoft game, where you're going to get 200 plus hours out of it doing that same thing, it starts to wear on you, I would think. So I think, like you guys pointed out, and I've said as well, time matters. And that goes to not just the time it takes to develop these games, but the time they're requiring of us. Nowadays, as far as us growing older, a lot of us don't have the time to sit there and put 200 hours into a game anymore. A lot of us, there's so many great games out and coming out that we want to split our time. And that's why our backlogs are so insane now, because we don't have time to do all of that, you know? So I think it's going to have to be a downturn in game design. I think it's going to have to be a bit of a downturn too in pricing. And now that's one of the biggest things for me. And I refuse to pay $70 for a game. I've told you all this before, and I stick by that.
That ain't happening, Umbra.
Listen,
they're never going to go back, bro.
They won't probably go back, but I think if they scale down the production cost of things, we could see at least a flattening without it going up, or at least a curve, I guess, where it doesn't go up higher, right? We don't want the $100 thing to happen. I said it on Booms. I'll say it here again. I already have my nephew going half seats, if you will, with me on games now, because I'm not paying $70. So if it hits $100, I'm like, yo, Neff, you got 100, you got 50 on you, you know, because I'm just not doing it. I'm not paying, you know, and I think GTA might try to be the first to sneak that in there, by the way. What you think? What do you think about that?
Though, yeah, that's the thing, though, because like, granted, GTA might be one of the only games that could get away with it because it is so big.
So true.
And it's also, I think, one of the only games that can justify such a massive budget, because they will come out and they will make an insane amount of money. I think at this point, GTA 6's biggest competitor, biggest problem is GTA 5, and it's going to continue to go that way, where like everyone's going to continuously want them to one up it, and they're already the hugest thing on the planet. So I don't know how they're going to do it. But yeah, no, to your point, I think that it's you're exactly right. I mean, Pete's also right. I don't think we're going to backslide and like have the prices go down. I wish, but no. Once they got us, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But if we can find a balance, even like we don't have to take every game and drop the budget. Like there are certain games like Grand Theft Auto and your Last of Us's that like can probably justify it, that price point.
Mm-hmm.
But the companies need to stop thinking big game, big money, because that doesn't matter, right? If you make $500 million, but you spent $450 million to make that game, you only made $50 million.
Yeah.
Whereas if you spent $20 million to make a game and you make $100 million, you've made $80 million.
True.
Right?
Yep.
So profit is what's really more important here. And I think you look at games like, honestly, probably like a Hi-Fi Rush, especially once it launches on PlayStation, and you're like, how much money did we put into that? I could find that on my couch cushion, and we made how much off of it?
Right.
Like,
But
I think you make smaller games
around
to
forever.
pay for the big ones. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean, everybody knows there's way too much stuff to do in, you know, Assassin's Creed games. They have the metrics. They know that, you know, X many people start this game and X many people finish it, and the number wouldn't be good, you know, when they actually looked at it. And I've never understood, like, you know, Breakpoint's a great game, but I think it is too big. There's too much content there. There's too much side missions. Even you, Danny, you said with Baldur's, it took too long to get to the good points throughout the story. That game won Game of the Year. It was heavily praised, but look, I agree.
That game's
there
worst.
does need to be some pulling back.
Yeah, that game's worst issue was that it didn't have enough good ideas in it to spread over the 200 hours or however long that game is.
Yeah, and that's part of the issue. I think it's just got to be a different scoping when it comes to game design. They're going to have to get to that point, that sweet point, if you will, where they're like, hey, we're aiming for a 40-hour game. You played some of these games, like I think it used to be an expectation where only JRPGs and such would really give you 100+ hours in a game. Now it's kind of like every game is trying to hit you there to keep you in that ecosystem, so to speak, you know. And I'm not mad at getting more of a game. However, it's bloating their budgets, and that's the problem. And that's why it's coming back on us as consumers. We're getting microtransactions in games that shouldn't be there. And, you know, we don't get a full game anymore. Now we're getting charged to get outfits that we should have gotten in a game that we used to get. You know what I mean? And it's just problematic for a lot of different reasons. I could elaborate on more, but we kind of are at the end of this.
Ubisoft are basically charging you for the DLC that comes out that actually tells the rest of the story, like where you're not even getting the full story in the mainline game anymore, and they're charging a lot more for their DLCs as well. So
yeah,
I love gaming. I only want to see what's best for it. I want it to be successful. The news this week has been terrible. I don't know. Hopefully it gets better.
Yeah, definitely. We had Riskit who donated a generous Australian dollar due, $7.99. He says, I disagree. They may move to a model that values games individually that is long overdue, and we're already seeing evidence of that shift now with Helldivers. I mean, we saw that shift before Helldivers, to be fair, right? And Helldivers is a AA. Kudos to them for that success of Helldivers, by the way, which is more successful on a PC than it is PlayStation. And I still would say that Sony would be smart to bring that to Xbox. I'm just saying, just being real. They would make so much more money. But it's kind of crazy how eye-opening seeing some of the success of things like that in PAL World has been. Not the craziest, most innovative games, but just fun games, right? That utilize I think different game styles and genres, at least specifically with Power World, brought into one, which made it unique, right? You got Helldivers, which is just uniquely fun, even though you're doing literally really the same thing over and over. Just running to go either fight the Drachnids or the whatever they call those things, or the automatons. And so it's basically that, but it's just so fun within that scope of that. And I think that speaks to more than anything else, and that's why Nintendo excels, because of the smaller budgets they put into their stuff and gameplay. Gameplay is king for Nintendo. And I mean, we can obviously talk about the nostalgia and IP they have that is just so well known too, right? But Nintendo makes great games. You know what I mean?
They do.
To their credit.
Yeah. Well, not in the Pokemon area, but yeah, most of the time.
Most of the time.
Most of the time they do pretty all right.
Yeah, most of the time. 90% of the time. How about that? But yeah. So I think it's just got to be a change in quality over quantity, if that makes sense. And I guess a budgeting of their budget as far as time put into it and what they're trying to make. And like you said, Danny, I think you made a great point too, because the thought would be, well, we got to get rid of these AAA games and turn it down. Not every game, right? Clearly, we still have to have standouts like the Gears. We have to have our Halos, right? Sony has to have their Last of Us or their God of Wars. But not every game needs to be in that scope. And I think that's what it has to be. It comes down to these studios, or at least these publishers, should I say, between Sony and Microsoft, being smarter in how they approach gaming. And Microsoft is still, I mean, they're getting there. You see, I guess Sean Layden was correct all along when he said these games, AAA gaming and such, is not sustainable. It's going to have to be a change. And Microsoft is leading that charge. I expect Sony to follow suit. I fully expect Totoki to take them into the PC day and date future, and possibly even to Xbox at a point. We'll see. But
we were talking about Wolverine launching day and date like yesterday.
I expect it. I fully expect it. I'm telling you. I used to be kind of like, nah, this is Sony. They wouldn't do that. I used to think like that. Not anymore. I think that
you said it on the Infinite podcast maybe a year ago.
Yeah, we did, right? Yeah.
I wonder if PlayStation is feeling incredibly stupid right now for having shut down like all of their AA studios, because right now they're probably going to their AAA studios and being like, hey, can you guys make something smaller with a lower budget? And they're like, yeah, but we're doing Spider-Man right now, like what do you want?
Right.
Where's Pixel Opus? Oh, that's right. Where's Japan oh, that's right. Where's Manchester oh, that's right.
Oh, them. Yeah,
we're the guys who used to pay for this. Oh, that's right. You decided that Gravity Rush and Bloodborne and all these other games shouldn't have sequels. Oh yeah, I get you. No, yeah, I understand.
Riskit says, so refreshing to hear Danny say something I actually agree with. If Danny can change, AAA can change too.
All right.
Yeah, get him, Danny. Don't let him get away with that.
And also, I hate Australia. Their toilet bowls flush backwards, and I don't trust it.
Hey, don't lump us all in with Brisket, bro. Come on, man.
Except those from Perth. They're okay. They're mostly okay.
That's where Risket's from, bro. From Melbourne, brother.
There you go.
Yeah.
Melbourne,
East
that's
Coast,
right.
bro. East Coast.
That's right. I forgot. I mixed you guys' areas up. Melbourne is fine. Perth can suck it. Let me stop. What is this? Gen X. I'm with you, brother. He said, nah, I need my Witcher 4 and Cyberpunk sequel. I'm 100% with you. I love CD Projekt Red. We absolutely still have to get those. But see, those are the things, right? We're not expecting that from a CD Projekt Red. This is more or less a Sony and Microsoft issue. This isn't everybody. See, those third-party publishers, they're not putting out games like Sony and Microsoft. Sony and Xbox, rather, they have that. It's a very unique thing to them. And Nintendo, when we talk about this and how it's harming them and the studios under them, where they're going to have to start releasing people. Not that it can't affect third parties, but it doesn't. CD Projekt Red wouldn't typically be putting out these games in a cadence of Microsoft or a Sony. They have a 1 or 2 games you're going to get from them in a year, or 4 or 5. So it's a little different, but absolutely, I do want those too. And there's still room for AAA. But if the area, the way they're handling it, it could lead to a major downturn in AAA gaming, and we might have a crash when it comes to that. And so we're going to see some changes as it relates to that crash. That's, I guess, what we're all kind of getting at. Central area here. Risky says Perth, real Aussie Melbourne, coffee sipping frauds.
Risket sipping on emu export too much.
You got some emu in them.
Oh, man.
You know the emu. Didn't Australia lose to the emu?
The emu wars of the 1700s.
Yeah. They're like, here they come. They're dangerous. Clever girl. Clever.
Y'all just live in Helldivers, huh?
Yeah, right.
That's the third faction they're gonna add. Is they had the bugs, the automatons, the emus.
Yeah. Did you see footage of that? I saw footage of them actually trying to fight those things, or at least pictures, I guess, of them trying to fight the things, and they had machine guns and everything else they're trying to shoot them with, if I'm not mistaken. Or am I thinking about something else? No, you know what? I'm mixing up 2 different situations. It was
you having flashbacks to hell?
Yes. Right. For democracy. But listen, folks, it's time for us to get out of here. It has been a great show, great discussion with these 2 gentlemen here. If you all have not done so, please hit that like button. Hit the like button, as my brother Dirt would say, and share this out if you can, if you have time, and subscribe if you haven't done so as well. We're growing. We are at 1,500 plus subscribers now, so that's a beautiful thing. We want to try to hit 2,000 or more by the summer, I suppose, if possible, and keep going to infinity and beyond. But yeah, thank you guys for being here, holding us down. He said it's not emo, it's emu. Excuse me, Gray. I'm so sorry. I don't want to be emo. I want to be emu. You lost to them either way. I'm just saying, yeah. Salute. Yeah, but no, thank you guys for being here with us and holding us down. Again, we'll be here every Thursday. We'll try to be at least 8 o'clock Eastern. Come back and support us. And yeah, so we'll go to our guests first. Jedi Knight Peter, brother, thank you for joining us. Great takes tonight, which is unusual for you.
You just jealous. I elevated this show so much.
I think being around us has helped it. Being around us helped you kind of deliver something better.
Well, maybe Danny. The thing was, I was actually watching the gameplay, and I was getting distracted at how bad you are. I was wondering why you invited me into the game, bro. You definitely need help, man.
Yeah, listen,
need help,
I was going easy on these guys here. That's all it was. I was just, going easy on them.
Yeah, no, honestly, bro. I had a great time, man. Thank you for having me. You can find me, Jedi Knight Peter, everywhere. Look, I'm going to remind you because you keep forgetting. You want to take my knees now? You want to take them later?
You know what? Skip it. Since you brought it up for the forefront. Me and Pete, if you guys didn't know, you didn't. many of you didn't know, we made a bet, and I don't know why. I still don't understand why he made this bet with me. Knowing how right I am typically. He made
I'll
a.
get him back with the PS4 Pro.
You
bro.
might get it back. You might get it back. I still have one copy of your knees left though after that, but you'll get one of them back after this. So, because the PS5 Pro might not, I don't see it happening. It doesn't make sense to me to make it happen, but we'll see. It's still there. Tom Henderson has reported on it. We'll see. But logically, it doesn't make sense for a PS5 Pro. So I think Pete might get that kneecap back. That said, Pete made a bet with me some weeks back before Microsoft spoke at their developer business update, and he was saying that he didn't think that Microsoft will speak on it. Now, to Peter's credit, and I guess his own downfall, is that he's not really on Twitter as much. He's not on social media as much as seeing these things. I, however, am embedded into Twitter and other social media sites and such, so I know just how crazy it was, and how everybody was reacting to all of that news and that doom and gloom and Xbox going third party and all these things. I saw it, right? So I'm like, Pete, you about to lose if you make this bet. I know it, right? I know that's going to happen. So Pete bet me that Microsoft wouldn't speak on it, and he gave me an extra deadline until the 19th. And I'm like, oh, you lost for sure. And he was like, oh, you make the bet. And I was like, okay, well, let's say to the end of the month, because I didn't know how they were going to handle it, right? He's like, make the bet. I said, I'll tell you what. I think they'll say speak on it within this week. It ended up being the next week, which I thought was stupid for them to do, but whatever, right? Either way, Pete lost, and that's what it is. So I took his knees, and now he's.
I almost made it within the timeline.
You were close.
I just want to say, little did I know that Umbra was talking to Risket in the background, and Risket might have had a little bird.
Nah, Risket had
before he actually took the bet with
Risket
me, which
had
is very
nothing.
Umbra thing to do, bro.
Now, listen, I am a mastermind when it comes to that. I am pretty clever, as Pete, as you know, if you play Among Us with me, I am particularly clever. However, I already knew that before Risket said anything. That I had made that bet with you before me and him talked, actually. But I knew that was going to be the case. They could not ignore that. They could not speak on that. You know what I mean? That had to be spoke on. So, yeah, yo, Donnie, that's right. See those knees, Pete? Look in the chat. Yeah. Yeah. So, Risket said he's taking 2 knees. So, yeah. But yeah, Pete, thank you for joining us, brother. Appreciate you coming through. Great discussion again tonight. Yeah, I guess you could tell the folks where they can find you and what you'll be playing and what you'll be up to.
Jedi Peter everywhere, man. More Breakpoint, most likely. Look, I looked at the other day. I think it's 20-something days till Dragon's Dogma 2. That's my next game that I'm really looking forward to, man. Can't wait for that to come out.
Yeah, you're definitely going to disappear into that, right?
Oh, hell yeah, bro. Yeah, I've been a long-time fan of Dragon's Dogma. I actually bought the original game for a few people because no one knew about it. It was, it was such an underrated game. And yeah, look, I really hope that everyone gets into the sequel. I don't think you need to play the first one to enjoy the second one, but I can't wait for that game, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Jedi Knight Peter's information, of course, is in the description as well as ours. So be sure to give this brother a follow on Twitter, and try to force him to be online and socially more when it comes to that.
500 followers now, bro. I'm getting there.
Oh, sucky now. But yeah, but Danny, the great show, brother. Great takes as usual. Tell the good folks what you will be up to and what you'll be playing if you get a chance to play anything.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah.
Now that I'm the boss, they just want me to do stuff all the time.
Boss. You gotta say it like Rick Ross.
We're actually having a all hands meeting on Monday that I have to get prepared for, and then basically the meeting is we're establishing like a guideline for what we expect of people, because there's a couple people that aren't living up to it. And then immediately after, if people aren't behaving right, then we're gonna have to start doing write-ups, and I'm not looking forward to it. But here we go, baby. Anyway, you can find me on Twitter at Daniel J. McG, or apparently writing up my employees, or on my personal YouTube channel of Daniel McG, or on the beaches of Fiji watching Survivor, or in the frigid north playing D&D. I'm all over the place, baby.
Yeah. So, yeah. So again, thank you, Daddy. Thank you, Pete. Thank you guys in the chat for holding us down. Hit the like on the way out. You can find myself, of course, on Twitter X, Infinite Umbra or Umbra Infinite. You'll find me either way. Tomorrow, you'll find me on the Infinite podcast with our esteemed host and dollary do giver, Risk It for the Biscuit, myself, and that blue number. We have a few guests tomorrow. Let me look this up to be precise. We have, of course, I believe Dante will be joining us as speaker. And we have that huggable hipster, Ariel Dannon, who is a freelance video editor and works at Game Informer and Windows Gaming as well. She's also a Souls-like creator, apparently, and founder of Biles Game Studio. So I've seen her in spaces. I've heard her speaking in Tim Dog spaces where he was, going to town, and she gave some enlightening thoughts. So it'll be an interesting conversation having her on tomorrow as well. So come by, and that's at 7 o'clock Eastern on Risk It's channel. So you guys may be sure to come by there and hear us out too. And Tuesday's Booms podcast at 12 o'clock Eastern, 11 o'clock my time, of course, Central. The Xbox Factor, myself, Steel Rain, and Boom, and possibly a rotation of like guests or such like that for now. And of course, that's about it for as far as what I'll be playing. A more Breakpoint for me as well. Somebody's got to save Pete and Wolf from themselves, and why not me? Yeah, and I guess I'll be playing more of this. So yeah, because I've been enjoying it a lot, and I want to get everything. So, and there's a lot to do in this game. But anyway, guys, all love to you. You all have a great night and weekend coming up. It's about to be Friday. Everybody should be happy about it. Everybody have a good night. Absolutely. Have a good night, everybody.
Later.